Waiting on Rockfin. Any day now. Based.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. My special guest today is going to be coming in just a second, ladies and gentlemen, but we have a lot to discuss for the Sunday show. We actually have 6 stories to cover tonight because a lot of things have been happening. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, guys. If you are new, I do want to let you know that Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show. And you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays. All right, guys, let me go ahead and show you what we are going to discuss tonight. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring in our guests because a lot of things have been happening, folks. A lot is going on. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing Max Blumenthal confronts paid pro-Israel influencer. Yes, they actually squared off. And that's who that is next to Max there in the thumbnail. That is Xavier DeRusso, very, very popular in the pro-Israel space. We're going to get into all of that. We're also going to discuss this Nobel Peace Prize award. The woman who got it there, you'll see her picture there in that yellow square, Maria. I'm going to tell you all about her. This is not the win that, of course, corporate media and the Western propaganda is making it out to be. We're also going to discuss Barack Obama is under tremendous scrutiny after a statement that he made recently about Israel and Gaza. That's why he has that look on his face. We don't need to listen to you, Obama. We're also going to discuss, of course, our special guest that is joining us is running against RITCHIE TORRES, someone we've talked about quite a bit on this show, very much Zionist in the pocket of AIPAC, and we'll get into that. We're also going to discuss, this one is kind of interesting story. I don't think I've ever talked about Kid Rock on this show, But Kid Rock is coming out against Live Nation. And we're going to talk a little bit here about how Live Nation and Ticketmaster take advantage of the consumer. So let's get into all of that. And we have a bonus story. We have an update about Van Jones. Apparently, Ryan Grimm has dropped some more revealing information about him, and Van Jones decided to clap back, and it did not go well. So who is Van Jones? We'll get into all of that tonight. Tonight's theme is We're Not Gonna Take It. No, we're not anymore. Let's go ahead and bring in our special guest. You've seen him here before. His name is Jose Vega. He is running against Richie Torres. Let's go ahead and bring Jose in. What's going on, Jose?
How are you doing, Sabrina?
I am doing good. Welcome back. Welcome back. I can honestly say you are one of the few candidates that I've actually hung out with in person.
That's right. That's right. We had a good time at Icarus Fest. I'm really glad we were there. We met up. We spoke. It was me, you, Katie Halper, Blumenthal, Max Blumenthal. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I remember we got to start from the beginning, because for those who are not familiar, Jose, if you first kind of came onto the scene when you were confronting journalists and other politicians about pro-war propaganda, of course, especially those that are pro-Israel. You also have been very critical about Richie Torres and what he has not done for the Bronx community. So I want to start with the Bronx. Why did you decide to run against Richie Torres? And would you say he is actually helping people in his district?
Yeah. Thanks for letting me come here and talk about the Bronx. So, as you know, the Bronx is the poorest congressional district in the entire country. And, at first it's kind of hard to believe, but it's just true. It has the highest child poverty. It has, over 35% of people here live underneath the poverty line. And the poverty line in New York City is $34,000 a year. That's what New York City claims you need to make in order to have, to be at the poverty line or above it, right? And the median income of those people who are underneath that poverty line are $24,000 a year. That's where a lot of the residents of the Bronx are. So they are barely making ends meet. They're paying $1,000 or $1,500 sometimes for a studio apartment, sometimes for a 2-bedroom for $2,000, a 3-bedroom for $3,000. It's absolutely insane what's going on here in New York City. And on top of that, you have houses that are collapsing. So we had here a public housing project collapsed, 17 floors of a chimney that fell, and it got the water and the heating of these apartments were shut off and are still shut off. So that's falling apart. At the same time, you have luxury housing that's being built up. At the same time, you have casinos that are being built up, while you're also shutting down All Hallows Catholic High School, which is a school in the South Bronx, the poorest of the poor in the Bronx, that had a 100% graduation rate. And it's shut down now because they couldn't raise, they needed to raise $15 million. The community came together and raised $12 million. They were $3 million shy. And the Bronx Borough president and Richie Torres both visited the school and said, sorry, there's nothing we can do. I'm supposed to believe that Richie Torres can't call his donors and say, listen, this school needs another $3 million. Can you find me 10 people to match my, $250,000 donation or something? Regardless, so the Bronx is just it's collapsing. And it's part of a gentrification effort right now where they're shutting down the hospitals and the schools, and they're building up luxury housing, sometimes only blocks away from the public housing that's falling apart. And the congressman of this area, his solution is we need another $5 billion for Israel. We need another $5 billion so that Israel can defend itself against Hamas and the terrorism. That's what his solution is. He goes to Washington, D.C. He talks about Israel more than he does the Bronx. And so the people here have been left with no voice, nowhere, whether it's the state legislature or in Congress. The people here feel like they have no true representation, and they have been abandoned by somebody who's illegally occupying this seat. And so I decided I'm throwing my hat in the ring. And I ran against him last year, and I'm doing it again now.
So I'm glad that you mentioned the gentrification issue. This is something I've been talking about quite a bit. It's happening all over the country. My documentary is about the gentrification that's happening here in Boston. I think for people who have never been to the Bronx, I think you have to go there to see it for yourself. It's another story where you have older buildings, and all of a sudden, to Jose's point, those buildings need to be repaired. And right next to an older building that's fallen apart, you have like this luxury condo building. It's obvious what they're trying to accomplish there. I would also question if the new Yankee Stadium also could have contributed to some of that gentrification, because
Yeah.
I know in other places when they do rebuild like some of these sports arenas, that also can cause like some of the gentrification as well. But to your point, I rarely have heard Richie Torres talk about the needs of the people in the Bronx. Like, I've seen Richie Torres speak at different conferences for AIPAC, for Israel. I mean, everywhere, which way you turn, he's on someone's podcast talking about Israel, but I rarely hear this guy speak about the Bronx. And I want to get your opinion of the way that he was promoted. When Richie Torres first ran, I remember there was an article from the New Yorker, and they said that he was the perfect progressive because he checked off all the boxes. That's what they said about Richie Torres. They said he's a person of color. They said that he's LGBTQ. They said he grew up in a single parent household. So they said because of that, he checked off all the boxes. And yeah, he did have that experience. He did not grow up wealthy. He did grow up poor, but that doesn't mean he's going to serve that community. And as we've seen, as long as he's been in Congress, again, like I said, I don't really hear him talking about the Bronx. You have gone around and you have gone to different neighborhoods in the Bronx. I've seen the videos where you've talked to people. What has been the reception about Richie Torres from the people that you've spoken to on the ground?
It's interesting. It's a mixture of I don't know him to we need to get him out. Those are the two big ones. And then the people that kind of know him and are like, well, I like him because I see him on TV are the older folks, people who are 60 years old and plus, you know. In fact, actually, yesterday in the Bronx, we were up in Norwood and we had a table set up, and you know, there was a woman who was coming by the street, and one of my canvassers said, "Hi, would you like a change in the Bronx?" She said, "No, no, no. I don't want Jose Vega. I want Richie Torres because I have a nonprofit, and he helps me with my nonprofit." And she just kept walking down the street, you know. And she was an elderly woman, you know, and she, you know, I guess she does run a nonprofit, you know, here. And you know, and she was just like, I'm not going to hear anything bad about the guy who, you know, gave money to my nonprofit. You know, that's basically the big reception I get. There's a food pantry that I've been helping out a lot at in the Bronx, up in Little Albania. And it's, you know, it's quite interesting. They have pictures of them with Richie Torres when he was in the city council. And I asked them, like, listen, like, is the congressman of this area helping you out at all? Because they're at risk of being shut down. So they are 3 months behind on their rent. Their rent is $5,000 a month. They rely purely on donations and also from the city councilwoman who's helping them out. And they're behind on their electricity bill. And I said, like, hey, like, is the congressman helping you? And they basically said ever since he went into the Congress, he hasn't been much help at all. And, you know, so I've been doing their delivery. I did their delivery last Wednesday where I drove in the van and I picked up the food from the locations and I unloaded it and I brought it back. And, you know, you realize just how evil it is that a congressman will neglect the very basic needs of his constituency, especially a food pantry that feeds 2,000 families on a weekly basis, and instead cares about another country. And like, I have been seeing, like, I was talking to this one woman who, she's a nurse or something at a hospital, and she was making $48,000 a year before taxes. And she was like, she was anxious, she was on edge. And I was just like talking to her about something relating to the Bronx and stuff. And she says, listen, look, you know, I get you're trying to get elected, but look, I pay money for car insurance. I pay money for my daughter to have a private school education because I don't trust the public school system. And the government takes my taxpayer money. I live in public housing that's falling apart. And she had a sling on her arm because her arm was broken because like pieces of her ceiling had fell on her and she fell and she broke her arm. So she was suing NYCHA, the New York City Housing Authority, which is responsible for the public housing here in New York City. And she said, like, look, like, and our government is failing us. Okay, we just need more Democrats elected in the House and everything can be fixed. And I said, ma'am, your current congressman is a Democrat who does not care about you, who is giving money to another country where they can have free health care on your taxpayer dollar that you barely qualify for, and you still have to pay a premium for it. And they get free education on your taxpayer dollar that you are working hard for your daughter to have. And they're slaughtering children your daughter's age with your money because of this congressman. And she started to cry. And she walked away. And like, I had somebody go chase her down and get her number so we can be in contact with her. Oh, that reminds me, I have to go see her tomorrow. And we have to, so we're in contact with her, because we want to just stay updated with her and like let her know, like, we're working on getting this guy out so she can feel like somebody has her back in the government. Yeah.
That's right. There's a question here, Jose, about the food pantry from Sassy. Sabby Sabs does his charity. I don't think it's his charity, but it's a food pantry here. Have a GoFundMe or a link where we can donate. Good question. How can people donate to that food pantry?
Thank you for asking. I'm going to send you a link right now can I send it to you via Twitter DMs and then you can get it here, or you know what? Here.
You can just put it in the private chat here too, if you want.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Let me just do that quickly right here. Sorry. No. Let's do here. Copy link address. Yeah. So they do need the funds. Okay. And it's in the private chat. There you go. That should take you right. Yeah, there we go. Great. Okay, that's the link. I put it in the private chat and hopefully someone will put it in the comments. Yes, please. They are far behind. And also maybe I was a little too enthusiastic, but I did make a pledge that so the congressional campaign is allowed to make a donation to 501c3s so long as it doesn't personally benefit me. And it's not gonna. But so I did pledge to give them $1,000, and at the time I thought I'll just raise that. But we are in the process of raising that funds too for them as well. On top of also, by the way, they don't just need money. If you're in the Bronx or you're in the greater New York City area, they need people to help distribute the food. They need people to help be drivers. If you have a driver's license, you can reach out to them on that website and call the number and let them know, hey, I'm willing to drive, pick up food for you, that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Okay. So that's, I just want to show people so they can see it. It's Food Pantry Open Hand Association, Inc. That's the organization Jose is referring to that's in the Bronx. I put the link in the chat for you guys. So if you want to donate and help them out, that would be great, because I know people that depended on these food pantries. So like when these things close, that's not good for them. And contrary to what people believe, like SNAP doesn't cover everything. So there are people who do rely on those food pantries. So thank you so much for mentioning that, Jose.
Yeah. And please, like I hope like I know there's people that don't believe in voting and elections. And honestly, like this food pantry needs the help. I spoke with a woman on there. I have this video on my ex account. I spoke with a woman on there. It was all done in Spanish. She had just had like open cranial surgery and she had a wound in her stomach and her doctor told her she should not be walking. Yet she goes there every Thursday and Saturday to get food for her and her family. She's an elderly woman. And what was so great about talking to her was the thing that was on her mind was the Gaza flotilla and the interception of the aid. And she had drawn the connection about how they're denying the aid to the people in Gaza. At the same time, they're shutting down pantries here. And she's like, she made that connection. I was like, that is exactly right.
Yeah, that's the connection between foreign policy and domestic policy. And speaking of that, Jose, one of the questions I have to ask, because people are going to want to know this, how will you avoid like being corrupted by AIPAC, right? Because we know that they seek out candidates pretty early on and trying to get them to join on to their lobby interests. What would you do if you were approached by AIPAC?
That's a great question. First of all, because I can say I will tell them to go fuck themselves, right? And I can say, they don't have anything I want. And also at this point, being associated with AIPAC is a toxic thing. I don't know what happens to somebody like Zoran Mamdani was talking about arresting Netanyahu. And then just last week, he said, well, we have to operate within the bounds of the law. And the United States is not a signatory to the ICC. So he was dodging the question again as to whether or not he would, arrest Netanyahu. And in my mind, I'm like, actually, what the fuck does happen to somebody when they get to the point where they're about to be at power, that they turn and they get corrupted and they get muzzled? Now, here's what I can say from my standpoint. I have a record and a history of standing up to the people in power. Whether it's Nancy Pelosi, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Hakeem Jeffries, Mike Pompeo, Joe Biden, Jamal Pullman. I mean, you name it. I am not here to make friends in the political establishment, and everything I said about them will continue to be true. And I don't apologize for a damn thing I've said, and will not apologize for a thing I said. Nancy Pelosi is still very much a sad old drunk, and Hakeem Jeffries is still an airhead, and AOC was still a liar and a hypocrite. And I say these things now, especially because, you probably know this, and your audience knows this as well. I've entered the primary. It's no longer just an independent candidate. I am an independent candidate, and I'm also in the primary, because New York City allows you to do that, where you can run both in the primary. And if I win or lose, it doesn't matter. I can still be in the general election under whatever party line I decide, as long as I petition for it. And a lot of people have been asking me, how can we be sure that you're not going to cozy up to the local Democratic Party chapter? How can we be sure you're not going to, become like a Zoran or an AOC, where you say one thing and then you become a puppet and a tool of another thing? But I have stood on my convictions for this long, and I have a public record, and I don't hide any of my associations with any group that I have been involved with, to the point that, like, I am the skunk in the picnic. We sent out press releases about the fact that I am now, in the primary race against one of the most watched elections in the country for 2026. And they've yet to cover it. They're going to try to ignore me. And that's okay. I don't want an endorsement from Hakeem Jeffries. I'm not trying to unify the Democratic Party. I'm not trying to fix the establishment. I'm very much here to expose the fact that the Bronx, which Richie Torres is not the only problem with the Bronx. You have a Bronx borough president that is talking about building more luxury housing for economic development, who's talking about building casinos for economic development in conjunction with Eric Adams, talking about this is good for the Bronx. It's all falling apart in a state, in a borough where the city council is Democratic, the state legislature is Democratic, the governor is Democratic. This party has utterly failed everybody, and I want them to hear me. As an solely independent candidate, they can choose to ignore me. But they know as well as I do that this is one of the most watched races in the entire country, and will be for 2026. And not just in the entire country, in the entire world. And I need to make sure that they hear me loud and clear, that this party, both parties, but especially the Democratic Party and how it's failed the Bronx, is a complete and utter disgrace and a failure. And they are going to hear me say this, and I'm going to make sure that they are associated with the likes of Richie Torres, and that instead the Bronx has an alternative voice.
So let's talk about this for just a second, because in New York, they don't have what's called a jungle primary, where even if you're running as an independent, you'll be a part of the primary, right? So in order for you to be in the primary, you have to run as you're an independent, but you're running in the Democratic primary. And is this so that you can get on the debate stage, or
yes,
what is your strategy behind this?
Yes, it's so I can get on the debate stage. It's so that I have more microphones on me. There's a lot of attention being put right now as to who will be the person who primaries Richie Torres. And I am deciding to put myself in that spotlight so that I can then get the attention that we need from the media to expose the fact that, hey, this is very much a failure and an indictment of the entire party. Don't try to scapegoat this into one bad politician, i.e. Richie Torres. And so, yes, this will allow me to get on the debate stage, and they cannot ignore me. And this will allow me to be heard more by the constituents here, many of whom already assumed I was in the primaries. I mean, you and I had this discussion way back when we were hanging out in August. at Icarus Fest, where I was very conflicted about the idea of even running in the Democrat primary or not. And, you know, you're right. It's not a jungle primary, but you still are allowed to do both. So, for example, I have to petition to put my name in for the Democrat primary at the end of January and all of February. And then the primary is in June. But before the primary, I have to petition again in April to May to put my name in for the independent ballot line for November. New York City allows you to do both. And if that's the case, I'm going to do everything at my disposal, use every resource and every tool I have, because this is a very unique time. The people of the Bronx need some reprieve, and I want to get Richie Torres out as soon as possible. And the other thing is, this gives me 2 chances to win. I only need to win once. You know, Richie Torres needs to win twice. So we have 2 shots here, and we can get him out.
I think Richie Torres can be beaten. I really do. I have noticed a couple of things, Jose. I've noticed I saw him taking pictures with Bronx residents recently. Like, look at this person that I helped. And I'm like, yeah. So it seems like he may be a little bit concerned.
I've got him on the ropes. I know, I really do. You know, I don't want to show my hand too much, but like, for example, I had an endorsement from Guy Christensen. He goes by Your Favorite Guy on TikTok. And that was really good because I have had people from the local masjids start reaching out, asking me to come and speak there, because it's like, hey, I didn't know who you were. This is so exciting. I can't support a politician that supports genocide. Will you come to my local masjid next Friday? I mean, it's absolutely great. Or when you had me, no, you didn't even have me on your show. When you just shouted me out at the end of August, because of that video I had made where I was going around telling people about Richie Torres, and you had dropped the beat for me. I have to give a shout out to Millie. Millie watches your show. She loves your show. And it turns out that she also goes to a local boxing gym where we host community events. And she was telling me about how she was really happy that you had promoted me, and that's what made her donate and want to be supportive. In fact, I texted her that I was going to be on because I know she's watching right now. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Millie. She's an ardent follower and fan of yours. But my point is that you are right. He is on the ropes. He is afraid. And I think only announcing in the primary is only going to make him more nervous. And I know they're going to probably throw another candidate in to protect him, because they're going to try to accuse me of splitting the vote in the primary. You know, oftentimes when you have a multi-candidate race, you know, more than 2 in a primary, the advantage usually goes to the incumbent, right? Because there's more name recognition and whatnot. But the truth is, you know, let them try that. I'm sprinting now. It's, you know, like there's the principle of like a marathon race, right? You're supposed to take it in strides. You go slow here, you sprint here, slow down here, right? Or in a relay race, you put your slowest. Now we're just full on. We really are campaigning like the election is tomorrow. And with that comes some things that we've taken ourselves a little more seriously. You know, we have a bigger team now. You know, I got a haircut. I've been losing the weight, you know, and as a result, everybody on my team has been so supportive of each other that I can honestly say we have built a great machine. Every single person on my team is the reason why we are going to beat Richie Torres and cause a real change in the Bronx, because they're the ones that are working hard right now, and they're the ones that are supporting us as we continue in on this mission, and they're going to stand with me through thick and thin, and they're prepared to take all the slander, because I know it's going to come hard. The mainstream media is not going to be friendly to me, and this is also an advice to all of you too. Do not be weary of any candidate running anywhere in the country that gets instantly positive reviews or positive endorsements from the mainstream media. If MSNBC, CNN, this one and that one are telling you this candidate is the guy to support, I would be extremely cautious of that. You know, which is why I've been very, very skeptical of some of the up and coming Tea Party Democrats. But that being said, you know, I'm just focusing on what I got to do here in the Bronx. and that is continue to talk to the people. You know, the thing that I have over Richie Torres is that he has to be in Washington, D.C. all the time, and I can continue to be in the streets when he can't. The team can continue to be in the streets. The people of the Bronx who already support me are already talking to their neighbors, who are already, I'm already getting lots of people reaching out from the videos of social media saying that they're happy that I'm out there. Or, for example, like somebody took a picture with me and posted it on their Instagram story. It was like, I actually got to meet a politician. And you know, with that comes a responsibility of like, okay, but I actually have to continue to keep this going. And I think that's another way in which I can answer the question about how do I actually continue to stay honest, not take AIPAC money, which I would never do. I would never take AIPAC money. These people are bloodthirsty killers. Okay. I mean, you know, I still think about the young woman who, you know, this was like in the peak of the genocide, where this young girl was missing like half of her face, and she was just running around and she didn't know what to do. And, you know, like the entrails of her face were bleeding out of her, and AIPAC was there defending and endorsing this. And so was Richie Torres. I would never take a dime from these bloodthirsty people.
Jose, quick question here, and I think this is a good one for domestic. Thank you, Roger, for the super chat. What's the short and long-term domestic policy solution for all that ails the Bronx, New York, and U.S.?
Okay, good. Thank you. Roger was kicking my ass last year on policy. I'm glad to say we've redone our website and we have a ton more policy than we did before, and more is coming too. You know, Sabby, like you were one of the toughest interviews I did last year. Like you kicked my ass on this too, and I really appreciated that, because if I was going to get heat from anyone, I'm glad it came from somebody who has my best interest at their heart, as opposed to some MSNBC Google. You know, but this year, like when we were redoing our website, the number one thing I told Kynan, our policy director, was like, we need more policy. We need more policy. I don't care. We need more policy. Just put it up. Like, we have good beliefs. Let's write it down. So the short-term thing is you have an education crisis. One thing that I've been telling people is we need to deploy our teachers like we deploy our soldiers. You know, the Bronx is the worst in education right now. And if we do not save this current generation of students, we have no future whatsoever, because these are the people that have to take over once the old generation is gone. So how do we make sure that they that they have an actual good, viable education? We need to do an emergency reconstruction program of the entire Bronx, top down, and we need to do that day one. That means we have to take the students in the worst performing high schools and we have to put them in special programs, specialized programs, where we're going to say, you need a good education and you need one now. So we're going to bring in tons of teachers, tons of resources. We're going to work with the families and figure out what it is they need in order to make sure that their students can have an environment in which they can actually learn and live in. And we have to make sure that they have an alternative so that they can get taken care of and they can get the education they need so that they can be literate. We have too many illiterate people walking around in the Bronx graduating high school. Now, from there, you have to re-inspect every single public housing that is over 30 years old. That's one of the reasons why the facades are falling apart in the Bronx right now. We need to treat this like a state of the Bronx is in a state of emergency right now that's just been undeclared. So we have to bring in engineers. Like, we have to bring in the Army Corps of Engineers to look up and down every single inch of all the public housing before the next one blows up, falls apart, or, you know, is for whatever godforsaken reason gets flooded. We have to make sure that they're good. And if they need to be repaired, if they need to be, you know, if portions of it need to just come down and come right back up, we got to make sure that there's viable housing so that we can relocate people temporarily while we fix the public housing. We need to build up new public housing, and we need to get rid of the red tape. We have an interborough train line that's about to be built from the Bronx to Queens to Brooklyn, and that was announced 3 years ago. They're just now about to hire an engineer that's going to take 15 years to build a train line, 15 years to build something that was conceptualized in the 80s. And the rail lines are already there. It's not like they're breaking ground. The rails are already there. So they are trying to purposely kill the people here. We need to do an emergency program to stop that. And I will raise hell in the Congress, and I will say, listen, okay, like Richie Torres came out with a statement saying it's going to cost $80 billion to fix New York City housing. $80 billion. Great. Let's take the $75 billion we give to all of our intelligence agencies, okay, and reduce their budget to $1. And let's take the last $5 billion from Israel and let's bring it back to New York City. Let's start with that as our short-term domestic policy. That's how we're going to fix the Bronx in the first 3 to 5 years. That's just my short-term policy. My long-term policy. Go ahead.
Well, let me add really quick. What Jose just said there about the building inspections, that's supposed to happen anyway, but it doesn't.
Exactly.
Same thing here, similar in Boston. It's supposed to be done, but it's not, and the buildings fall apart. Go ahead, Jose. Sorry.
No. You're absolutely right. And I'm sorry, I just get so heated because it's like, if you had a government that actually cared about its people, I wouldn't be running for Congress. I would live out my wild dreams of making movies or art or something. But I'm doing this because nobody is standing up with a reasonable approach. If you genuinely believe there's an emergency in the country or in your district, you have to treat it like such. You know, the way we deploy soldiers to the Middle East, for whatever goddamn reason, we should be deploying our people, our resources in our own cities. We should be treating our cities and rescuing them from the grips of authoritarianism instead of going to a foreign country and doing it for them and instead instilling fascism in them, okay? We would need to actually come into the streets of the Bronx with the resources for people to get them out of poverty, because this is an emergency crisis right now. Food pantries shutting down, schools shutting down, hospitals shutting down, but luxury housing being built up and casinos being built up. No. Something is wrong. Something is rotten in our state government, our local government, and our federal government, and it all needs to be cleaned up right now. And I hope that anybody who decides to work on this campaign or contributes to this campaign has that as their conception of what we are doing here. We are overthrowing the entire chessboard. I'm not cozying up. If I were to win the primary, believe me, you will not see me calling Nancy Pelosi Mama Bear. You will not see me vying for Hakeem Jeffries and voting him in for Speaker of the House. They are all utter failures and disgraces. And I am saying that now early because I want people to know where I stand on this, okay? I hate the people that compose the Democratic Party. And maybe I shouldn't say hate. I've been working a lot with Father Harry Berry, who's a 96-year-old peace activist, and he says I shouldn't say that. So you know what? I'm sorry. I got too emotional. Oh, sorrow. Anyway, I just that's my short-term policy.
Jose, yeah. I have to say, and I want to show everybody your website here really quick. It's Jose Vega for Congress, votevega.nyc. And I just have to say, first of all, check out Jose's website. It says declare your independence. Ready to transform the Bronx. Sign up to volunteer and help us build a movement for Medicare for all, reindustrialization, and peace through development. And I just have to make a statement, an observation I've noticed. I think you have come miles from where you were when you ran last time. I really do. I think that I think you have a shot. I really do. A lot of people are very upset with our money going to Israel, very upset with AIPAC, and also just upset with Richie Torres, right? Like, I think people have had enough of him. And I have to say, I've seen a tremendous, I'm just being honest, I've seen a tremendous improvement from where you were last time. And I know last time, it was your first time and you kind of learn things, as you go. But one of the things I appreciate about you is that you weren't just this person that's like, I just want to be a politician. I appreciate the fact that you do organize. You do mutual aid. You do help people. And I think that at the end of the day, it's what's really going to matter. Like, people remember those who do for the community and those who just come by every now and then, and they already got your vote and you see them every now and then. So I think that I have to tell you, I'm impressed. I really am. And I mean that sincerely. So wow. I wish you all of the luck, Jose. One more question I do want to ask you is, who do you think, if you had to narrow down where Richie Torres is getting his support, What area of the Bronx do you think that is coming from?
Oh, great question. In the area of the Bronx, it's Riverdale. So there's a big, this is, and it was gerrymandered this way, but Riverdale of the Bronx is seen as one of the wealthiest areas, not just of New York City, but of the country. And it's one of the richest, wealthiest zip codes. And it only composes like 10% of the district, yet they are the people that show up and vote. You know, like 50,000 of the 110,000 people that voted in the midterms come from that one district. And that's largely a from that section of the district. And that's largely a pro-Zionist district. And that area of the Bronx was given to Richie Torres when he won his congressional race in 2020 as a way to try and anchor him in. Meaning that our job is to go into the places that have been forgotten, that don't come out and vote, because they do outnumber them. The people in the South Bronx, the people who are poorest, outnumber the wealthy people who do vote. And don't get me wrong, I talk to people all the time in the South Bronx who are like, I don't vote because nothing changes. Nothing changes. You are all the same. I've gotten heckled at the housing project, at Mitchell Projects, because there was, and you know, like I come there with a button-up shirt, a clean haircut, and I was there. I was doing my video about this is a disgrace, and she started. There's this one tenant. She lost her home, and she just starts yelling at me, saying, "You politicians, you come here, you make decisions that only make our lives worse, and then you come here and pretend you care about us." And I tried to talk to her, but she was in an emotional state because she wasn't allowed in her home. It might have been destroyed, and she only saw me as a politician. And I thought, wow, like people have lost their trust, and understandably so, because politicians are the reason why that house is falling, why she lost everything.
Yep.
It's a big, major challenge that we have to have. And I think as long as we continue with love and perseverance, and honestly, all the credit to my team. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be the person I am without every single one of them. And they know who they are. And, you know, they all deserve the world. And Sabby, I just want to say thank you for your kind words. You know, it was like walking through a ring of fire last year. I mean, I was homeless. I was sleeping in my car and I didn't really know what I was doing. And, you know, I mean, life is a little bit better now. But as my friend says, when you walk through fire, you come out as baked bread, you know? So I think that's very true.
I'm sorry, Jose. We got we got two more for you. This one here, it says, given the history, thank you, Kevin. Given the history of this binary lobbyist system, are you in favor of dismantling this vicious capitalist system? That's one. Dismantling capitalism. And the other one, thank you, Roger. Will you sponsor a bill to remove housing from the predatory, speculative market to reverse the homelessness crisis?
Yes, and yes. Actually, Roger, that is very good language to use in a policy paper. And I'm hoping that Kynan is watching so he can take that and expand and elaborate on that. But yes, in terms of dismantling capitalism, absolutely. I think we have capitalism on drugs right now. I mean, it's just completely insane. And I would like to introduce Matthew Carey to a lot of you who may not know. You know, this was an early American economist who was talking about the wealth disparity in the United States in the early 1800s that I've been drawing a lot of my parallels to. Oh, and also Henry Carey as well, and the American system of economics. I know that a lot of people here are socialists, and I think that you should read the debates between Henry Carey and Karl Marx, because Karl Marx called Henry Carey the only American economist worth reading, and I was talking to Christian Parenti about this a lot. But basically, this idea of wealth disparity and how you tackle it, I think, was something that was at the heart of many of the people in the mid-1800s, especially Matthew Carey, and of course, Karl Marx too. And I do think we do need to dismantle the predatory capitalist system that continues to oppress the masses here in the United States. And it does actually include what Roger said about removing housing from the predatory speculative market, which is just another example of capitalism gone wrong. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think we have one. I'm so sorry, Jose.
No, don't apologize. This is great. I love talking to people.
Sniper, thank you. Do you support Zoran's plan of reducing the mayor's control over education system, giving Department of Education and school boards more power?
Yeah, I think I do. I actually was just discussing this because first of all, he has this thing about wanting to get rid of the gifted and talented program for kindergartners, but keeping it for the third graders. But the problem with that is that like the Board of Education right now, especially in the federal level, is run by Linda McMahon, who wants to dismantle it. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I do think that the Board of Education should be in charge of the education of a city or of a state or even of the country as a whole. But the problem is you have a hostile federal government towards nationalizing education policy that I don't know if I would be comfortable with that, because I don't know if I would trust. First of all, I don't know if I trust Zoran, period. But I don't know if let's say Zoran has good intentions. At this moment in time, do I trust the education in his hands over Linda McMahon's? I would say the answer might be yes, given what he said. But in principle, I would support it over for education to be handed more power towards the Board of Education and the Department of Education. I do think you need a proper national curriculum that just has not worked or functioned for a very long time now. And I think you need one that's based on classical education principles. I mean, how do you actually educate a child? And I genuinely believe that every child is truly capable of genius. I don't believe in discriminating children. And I think that everybody is capable of understanding, learning, reading, and is capable of making real discoveries. And our education system right now does not meet those standards of making sure that every child has, to their best ability, or given the tools to their best ability, to develop their most creative potential. And as a congressman, I would work towards fixing that.
I was going to say there are different categories of intelligence people too. There's different types of intelligence. It's not just academic. Like a lot of people hear intelligence and they're like, oh, you must be really smart with math or something. Like there's musical intelligence. There's all different types of intelligence. And I think we need to start looking at things that way instead of the score that someone got on their SATs.
Absolutely. I dropped out of college, so did Richie Torres, but I dropped out of college, and I don't think that somebody's credentials defines them as intelligent. I've met a lot of Harvard educated people that are, maybe, don't, anyway, you know where I'm going with that, and I don't need to finish that.
Yeah. Some people have book smarts, but not common sense. And last one, I promise. Thank you, Roger. Will you co-sponsor Chicago Congressman Danny Day Davis National Infrastructure Public Bank? Would you sponsor a bill to reinstate postal banking?
On Danny Davis's National Infrastructure Public Bank, yes, absolutely. I think that's already up on my site as a policy for a institution of a national infrastructure bank, because we're going to need to figure out how do we produce the billions of dollars to make high-speed rail. Because that's another thing I want to bring to the country. I want to be able to get from here to Boston in an hour, or from here to DC in less than an hour through high-speed rail. The money's got to come from somewhere. Now, yes, we can redistribute it. Absolutely. Our $1 trillion defense budget spending bill is way too high. But also, I do believe in printing out or instituting credit to fund these big public projects, and you don't seek an immediate return on investment. A national bank is not supposed to get a return on investment. At best, you can charge maybe 2% interest over the course of 20 years. It'll make its money back, and the society will be better as a whole. So yes, I do support that. As for postal banking, I looked into it, Roger, and honestly, I'm not against it. I think it's a good idea. So yeah, sign me up for that.
I think the first person I heard bring that up was Andrew Yang when he was running for president in 2020 about the postal banking. And I found that pretty interesting. And then I have just last two for myself here. If there were legislation that was brought forward, if you win and you do head to DC, if there was legislation that was presented for BDS, would you support that? And if there was legislation that was presented for reparations for descendants of American slavery, would you support that?
Yes and yes. Okay. I know we had a back and forth last year about reparations and what that would look like. But honestly, if a bill came to my desk and if I had to vote on it, for reparations, like, yes. How much money have we given to Israel, and how many? And the one of the things that you had told me was that we had given reparations to other groups of people, which I think is like, well, if we gave it to other groups of people, why don't we just give it to the people who are here? So yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely push for it and I would vote for it. So, you can consider that something that you've won me over on that. But I wouldn't stop there. I would say that reparations has to also be giving people the tools in which that they can continue to develop themselves forward. So that means another form of reparations that has to be done is rebuilding neighborhoods. That has to be, we've destroyed many neighborhoods in the United States through redlining and through like the Bronx. We cut the Bronx in half through the Cross Bronx Expressway because of racism. So that's just what it was. Robert Moses said, fuck the Bronx. I'm going to put a giant highway in the middle, split it, and have a lot of trucks in here, right? So, of course, what's the reparations for that? Well, for one, I think you're going to have to redo all of that, and you're going to have to put it either underground or you're going to have to develop other means of transportation. Secondly, I think sorry, what was the first question? Oh, BDS. Yes, of course.
BDS.
Absolutely. We're going to BDS. We're going to boycott, divest from Israel 100%. So that's absolutely. Yes, I do support, both of those. So.
All right, Jose, I'm impressed. I see tremendous improvement from last time. And I just want to wish you good luck and knock him out of there. Knock Richie out of there.
Thank you. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you for having me on your platform, and just thank you. And thank you. Honestly, thank you.
All right. Bye, Jose.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Jose Vega. Again, you can check out his website at votevega.nyc so you can see more about his policy positions there. Again, like I said, I think Jose has, in my opinion, shown tremendous improvement. So we are going on with the show, ladies and gents. Tonight's theme is We're Not Gonna Take It. Just like the Twisted Sister song. We are not gonna take it anymore. Let's get to some of the comments and then we'll get into the other stories for tonight. Shout out to Golden Sun. Thank you. Says hello from A2 Michigan. What's up, Michigan in the house? What's going on? Texas grown. Holy crap. Thank you for this super chat. Sabby, I don't mess with pay apps, so here you go. Pay the food bank, please. I can do that, most definitely. Thank you, Kenman. Sabby is a gifted interviewer. Thank you. And thank you, New York Varsity says, Sabby, you gave him a lot of good advice last year and it paid off. Thanks. And thank you, Black Spock, for the super sticker. Thank you all so much. Let's keep this show on the road, ladies and gents. We still have 5 more stories to cover. I know big show tonight, but I'm going to try to keep it. I'm going to try to get done by 7:30. Let's see if we can do it. All right, let's go ahead and let's get into this next story here, ladies and gentlemen. So there has been an update about the Van Jones story that I covered last week, where he exposed himself here on Bill Maher's show. And Ryan Grimm, we're showing it from Ryan Grimm because he's the person that Van Jones is now attacking. Oh, get ready for the laughs. Ryan Grimm said, how does Van Jones think those babies died? So just to recap, this is the statement that was made by Van Jones that made everybody scream at Van Jones. Oh, I can't hear it for some reason. Eric, can you check the volume here? Could just be me. I'll move it out and then bring it back in. While we're waiting on that, can everybody do me a solid if you haven't done so and smash that like button? Thank you. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share just like a Care Bear. Thank you very much. We just got to make sure the sound is on. Okay, here we go. Okie dokie. All right, here we go.
Race theory, and somehow the Middle East became part of,
I see it differently. And I love this conversation because I think people, those of us who went to college, give a lot more credit to college courses for how the world works than I do. This is not about critical race theory on college campuses. This is about Iran. Iran and Qatar have come up with a disinformation campaign that they are running through TikTok and Instagram that is massive. If you are a young person, you open up your phone and all you see is dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby,
Right.
Diddy, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby. Like, that's basically the whole feed.
Yeah, so you guys remember that. Apparently, that did not go well for Van Jones. Everyone was attacking him, those on the left, the right, in between, and all over the damn place. After that, I said, Van is done. But apparently, I was incorrect. He wasn't done just yet. And of course, we debunked this last week. He has no proof that shows that Iran and Qatar are paying for these accounts at all. However, things just got worse for Van. I was wrong. He wasn't done then. Might be done now, though. Because you see, Ryan Grimm in Drop Site News found out something else. Van Jones is among 16 mainstream journalists, including 2 New York Times reporters, serving as mentors in a new journalism fellowship explicitly created to help Israel win its information war. Now, why is this important? Why does this matter? You know, it kind of shows you, again, like we said, Van Jones was being paid to push pro-Israel propaganda. Now, I just think this is something that people need to know. Look, I'd never heard of this fellowship before, this article, but Van Jones wasn't going to just volunteer this information before he said what he said on Bill Maher's show or what he said on CNN or other podcasts about Israel being the best this and the best that. He is a paid puppet. Now, Van Jones apparently did not like the fact that Ryan Grimm called him out. So he responded. This did not go well for Van. Van Jones just need to take a hiatus from social media for like a couple weeks because this ain't going well. He said, fake news alert. This story is totally bogus. I agreed to give a 1-hour, one-time talk to a handful of journalists next year for free. I give more than 100 talks a year covering all topics, speaking to people of all races, faith, and background, and I will continue to do so. So he went all out there, all big and proud, and he said that Ryan Grimm's article was fake news. There's just one problem. Van Jones pretended as though a website doesn't exist. I mean, Van Jones is out here all loud and proud as if he is not featured on the damn website. So my response to Van Jones is, what are you talking about? And you can see the screenshot here. The Karsh Journalism Fellowship mentors. I mean, his picture is on the damn website. Like that's the crazy part. He didn't take any time to read that actual article because if he would have read the article, he would have been able to connect the two and say, oh, wait a minute, that's the Karsh Fellowship. I'm on the website. I mean, talk about having egg on your face. So Van Jones was out there showing his whole ass, all of it. So let's show you, who are the Karsh people? What is the Karsh Journalism Fellowship? Again, this is all on their website, public information. The Karsh Journalism Fellowship mentors. These mentors are leading journalists representing a wide range of platforms and perspectives. Their role is to consult on the development and refinement of the fellowship itself, lead sessions as their schedules allow, connect fellows to valuable sources and colleagues, provide mentorship on reporting projects, and support recruitment by promoting the program within professional networks. So let me stop here for a second. So part of his job as a mentor is to provide mentorship on reporting projects and to promote it on professional networks. You know, now let's look at who the mentors are, because this is hilarious. Check this out, fam. Some of these people you may recognize. We have Bernard Avashi, Alex Cohen, Giselle Fernandez. There's Van Jones. Again, and he's in the first row. Like maybe he could have gotten away with it if he was at the bottom of the list. But he's in the first row. Damn. Let's continue on. Aaron Mullen, Moshe Anananu, hope I pronounced that correctly, Mark Oppenheimer, Sharon Ottoman, Michael Powell, Jody Roderin, Jonathan Sacerdoti, Emily Schrader, that crazy Zionist woman that has been on Piers Morgan multiple times. You see who he's in community with? Let's continue on. Matthew Siegel, Shira, Talushkin, Sarah Tuttle Singer, and Sharon Waxman. Van Jones is the only Black person a part of this mentor program. In other words, Van Jones is their token. At least got to have one. Let's put a one on there and show, see, we got Black people too. See, Israel's not racist. We got a Black guy there. If you look further on this website, the Karsh Journalism Fellowship, when you look at what it's about, this again, it's so bold and in your face. Jackie Karsh, she is a 6-time Emmy-nominated multimedia journalist for over a decade. She has reported for LA 36 LA County Channel, where her work shines a light on the social and humanitarian issues that shape the lives of Angelenos. You have the director here, who's Rob Eshman, senior columnist at The Forward, served as national editor of The Forward and editor-in-chief and publisher of the Jewish Journal. Rob has taught and lectured at USC Annenberg School of Communications and Journalism and the University of Missouri School of Journalism. Wait till we get to it, folks, right here. Let's see what it's about. The fellowship is a nonpartisan, ideological, pluralistic space for journalists to immerse themselves in the study of core Jewish issues and to develop their own ideas. They make it very clear what they are about and what that fellowship is for. Did everybody hear what I just said? Okay. And yet Van Jones is out there saying it's fake news. But we're not going to take it. In the words of Twisted Sister, no, we ain't going to take it. If you look at the article here from Dropside News, legacy journalists from New York Times, CNN, are mentors in a fellowship funded for pro-Israel information war. Now, let's just drop down to the part here where they get into Van Jones. Pretty lengthy article. Here it goes, right about here. So where did I want to start? We're going to start about here. The fellowship has attracted 16 scholars and journalists from several mainstream publications to serve as mentors, including The Atlantic, Spectrum News, The Spectre, Ynet, Times of Israel, and 2 journalists at the New York Times, Joni Roderin, and the former Jerusalem bureau chief for the New York Times, who now oversees newsletters for the paper, including the Morning and Deal book, and Sharon Ottoman. So you see, The Atlantic, Spectrum News, etc. Again, this is the pro-Israel propaganda push. It goes on to say here, in response to an inquiry from Dropsite about whether having staff reporters mentoring for a program whose founder has said it exists to help Israel win an information war represented a conflict with the New York Times standards, spokesperson Charlie Statlander said in a statement, it's ridiculous to suggest participation as mentor in this fellowship is anything other than helping to build the reporting skills necessary for the next generation of independent journalists. Okay. Pardon me. Let's go back to the website again. What does it say? The fellowship is a nonpartisan, ideological, pluralistic space for journalists to immerse themselves in the study of core Jewish issues. I mean, they make it very clear. People act like the website doesn't even exist. Other fellowship mentors include CNN's Van Jones, who recently issued an apology after drawing intense criticism for comments he made on HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher on Friday, making light of images of dead Palestinian children. which we went over that video. As founder of this fellowship, Karsh has been an open and diehard supporter of Israel in both of her articles and public comments. She describes Hamas as real-life monsters and compared Hamas to Nazis. She also questioned the Gaza Health Ministry's casualty numbers, which have been found to be accurate by the UN and even the Israeli military. When the numbers come from the Ministry of Health run by Hamas, whether that's done deliberately or not, influences how people perceive the story, and it can even shape the policies. And this is why I've argued multiple times that if you do the math, the death count that is reported is obviously significantly lower than the actual death count. She wants to keep it that way. Actually, she wants it to be even lower, right? So Van Jones is a paid liar. It goes on to say that Karsh has also been highly critical of the Palestine solidarity protests and encampments on university campuses and the media coverage of them. So she had a problem with the protest as well. So Van Jones just got exposed again. And what made it worse is that he responded to Ryan Grimm and Dropside News, and he said it was fake news, as if this website didn't exist out there and his face is not right there in the front row on that website. Now, this ain't all, because we've been talking about this for a while, like who Van Jones is, right? Did you know that Van Jones also at one point had a deal with Rock Nation? This was in 2017. Van Jones signed a management deal with Jay-Z's Rock Nation. CNN host, author, and activist. He had made the announcement that Thursday. This was May 4th, 2017. You see what I mean? Like, Van just got his hands everywhere. I don't think a lot of people know about this, but yeah, see, it was right here. Jay-Z's Rock Nation management firm has scored an unlikely new client. The Washington Post reported the company inked a deal with CNN host and former Obama environmental advisor Van Jones. So they got people everywhere to push this propaganda. So the more things, the more projects that Van Jones is involved with, the more often he can spread that pro-Israel propaganda. It's not just about CNN. He can spread it at Rock Nation. I don't know if he's still with them, but he had signed with them in 2017, apparently. And I think a lot of times what they do, in particular, like Israel, is like they always try to get at least one Black person in these spaces so that they can make sure that Black people remain pro-Israel. Because naturally, we are more likely to side with those who are oppressed, not the people who are the oppressor. So they get tools out there like Van Jones, Cory Booker, Hakeem Jeffries. They get them to do that work. There's just one problem, though, when it comes to Van. And of course, shout out to Gabrielle for this one. The Israelis admitted openly on video that their goal was to get Black Americans on their side in the propaganda wars against the Palestinian people. The problem with fascists is that they don't do their homework, because Black people as a whole do not mess with Van fucking Jones. No, that's the thing. Most of us ain't really trying to be cool with Van like that. So that's the other part. They pick people. They're Black, they're well educated. He went to Yale. Cory Booker went to Stanford. Like, they pick people that have no connection to the community. Not everyday working folk. I mean, I didn't think it could get worse for Van because he had a bad week last week, but apparently it could. And everybody's pushing back. And by the way, the ratio for this one is even worse. Because people are like, wow, dude, you're just really striking out 2 weeks in a row. And people are doing that because we're not going to take it. We're not going to take the propaganda. We're not going to take the lies, the blatant lies. We're not going to take it. And people are willing to push more back on corporate media. And I can guarantee you one thing, this whole takeover of Barry Weiss coming in as the editor of CBS News, it's almost like CBS News wants their ratings to tank. Because ain't no young people watching you. We're not watching CBS. No. They're losing the information war. And they're using people like Van Scummy Jones to try to get it back. Don't lie, Van. Stand up and own that. Own it. Own it. Just admit you're a paid puppet for Israel. People might have more respect for you if you just admit it is what it is. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. BMAC says Van Jones has zero connection to regular working folk. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I mean. Just a mess. And thank you, Dayman Fighter of the Nightman. That's an interesting name. For coming a Sabby member. Let's give Dayman a big whoop, whoop. Yeah. All righty. And Nikki Earth says, we're not going to take it anymore. No, man. We're not going to take it. We're not going to take it. Okay. We're going to head on to the next story here, ladies and gents. People ask about that Twisted Sister thing. I only know 2 songs from Twisted Sister, and that's We're Not Gonna Take It. And what was the one I Want to Rock? I Want to Rock. I think that's also Twisted. Yeah. So life must have been hard. If you were Gen X, and actually if you were a boomer too, if you were a boomer, but mainly like if you were Gen X, things must have been tough for you guys, because I look back on it and I'm like, imagine seeing these music videos where a parent walks into the room. And I know this because VH1 used to have this thing called I Love the 90s, I Love the 80s, I Love the 70s. And they would only play music videos from that era. And that's how I know about a lot of these, like these videos from like the 80s and stuff. But anyway, could you imagine being a teenager in the 80s? Like I think Gen Z would have been teens in the 80s or something like that. And you got this video where like a parent walked into his son's room and he goes, look at me. Look at me. What is wrong with you? What are you going to do with your life? And the kid sits up and goes, I want to rock. Robbie knows what's up. Robbie knows. He knows what's up. Or that the commercial about the kid where the parent says, where did you learn this? Where the dad walks in and he goes, look at me. Who taught you how to do this, huh? Where'd you get this stuff from? Who taught you how to do this? You! I learned it from you, okay? I don't know what to say. Let's get into the next story. I know Gen Z life had to have been rough, like growing up at that time. Oh my gosh. Okay, next story. This came through. They finally did announce the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. And lo and behold, it is a rabid Zionist. This woman, Maria Corina Machado, won the Nobel Peace Prize, and corporate media is singing her praises and saying what a fighter she was for the Venezuelan people. But they're not telling you who this woman really is. Case in point, we'll bring in this clip here from CNN. Look at the way they praise Maria.
The Nobel Peace Prize for 2025 to Maria Corina Machado. She is receiving the Nobel Peace Prize for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela.
The Nobel Peace Prize winner, Maria Corina Machado from Venezuela, Latin America. We do want to go now live to our Selma Abdelaziz, who is in London, here to give us a little bit more context of maybe why this is the recipient this year and what the background is here.
It is very easy to see, Brian, why she was chosen by the Nobel Committee. This is a woman who has dedicated her life to her country, Venezuela, which is, of course, now suffered under an economic crisis, under what is widely seen as a dictatorship, under increasing repression. And she has faced off with those authorities both boldly, bravely, and unbowingly. Just to go over a little bit of who she is, she was elected a member of the National Assembly in 2011. She held that seat for nearly 3 years and was eventually stripped of that seat. She tried to run for presidential elections and was also removed from the ballot, and that's not due to her popularity. Brian, there is an understanding that she has deep popularity on the ground and a huge movement behind her. About a year ago, she went into hiding, fearing for her life. We understand she remains in hiding. She recently did an interview with Elle magazine, speaking of that experience, saying that she's barely seen the sun in months, but that she continues to fight for what she believes in.
She looked like she in the sun to me, don't she? Okay, so let me say something here. Listen to the way that they describe Maria. Now, they're not going to tell you the things about Maria that I'm going to tell you, right? So my job as independent media is to tell you the corners of these stories that corporate media omits from their discussion. Maria is basically another Western puppet. And I've heard, oh my God, the past couple of days, all I've heard is, oh, they gave it to this woman. She's such a fighter for her people in Venezuela. Let me show you who Maria really is, because you can see even the way that they're talking about her there on CNN. This is the same woman that begged Donald Trump to bomb her country. Check this out. Shout out to Normal Island News. Venezuelan woman who begged Trump to bomb her country wins the Nobel Peace Prize. I kid you not, you guys. This is wild. Listen to this. Marina Corina Machado has become the first person since Barack Obama to win the Nobel Peace Prize for doing absolutely nothing. Actually, that nothing might be unfair because Machado has repeatedly called for the U.S. and Israel to invade her country. She has steadfastly supported Israel's genocide, so you know she's a good egg. Yesterday, I built all your hopes up by suggesting Trump might win the Nobel Peace Prize, but at least you can console yourself with the fact that the CIA did. In a heartwarming moment, Machado dedicated her big win to Donald Trump. It is undeniable that Machado is a woman of peace who truly loves her people. Back in 2018, we were pretending Juan Guaido was the rightful leader of Venezuela. She made the following request. I am sending a letter today to Mauricio Macri, president of Argentina, and to Netanyahu, prime minister of Israel, to ask them to apply their force and influence to advance in the dismantling of the criminal Venezuelan regime intimately linked to drug trafficking and terrorism. So obviously, this person here who's writing is being sarcastic here a little bit. But that's who this woman is. That's who Maria, this is who they gave the Nobel Peace Prize to. She's another Zionist, and she is using the, come in and bomb the country to get rid of the drug trafficking and all of that. That's what they use as an excuse and a reason to implement regime change. She's just another Western puppet. They don't give it to true fighters. That's what people really have to understand. Then she went on, by the way, to dedicate her Nobel Peace Prize to Donald Trump. So let's make the connection. That right there let you know Maria, Donald Trump, deep state, Zionism, regime change, they're all connected in this. And I'm going to show you again what they mean when they say we have to bring democracy there. It's not about democracy. It's about regime change. They want to install who they want. By they, I mean the West, usually the United States. So this is who CNN is applauding. This is why corporate media is so bad, right? Let me show you a little bit more about her. Let's go on here. Again, shout out to Zionist Tracker. This is who she is. Maria Machado, Venezuelan politician, Zionist. One day we'll have a close relationship between Venezuela and Israel. The struggle of Venezuela is the struggle of Israel. This is who they gave the Nobel Peace Prize to. And this is all a part of the West plan for regime change in Venezuela. They want someone like Maduro out because they want to install a Western puppet. Now they're going to use the excuse of Venezuela has all these gangs and drugs, etc. Man, we got gangs right here in the US. We have gangs. Every country has gangs, as far as I know. So that's the excuse that they use. Just like they had to give you an excuse to overthrow Saddam Hussein, to kill Gaddafi. They always come up with something. This person is a dictator. They're killing all their people. This person is trafficking in drugs. We got to save the women and the children. And I don't think that works so much anymore nowadays, because you literally just watch the United States continue to give Israel weapons and aid while they were killing women and children. So I don't think the women and children thing works the way that it used to. Now they got to come up with other reasons. So now we're moving on to the drug trafficking phase. But they see her as the hero. This is who they gave it to. Not Greta Thunberg, not anyone that was on the freedom flotillas, of course, because they don't fit the Western narrative. They're not going to give it to real freedom fighters. They're going to give it to someone that is trying to implement regime change. And oftentimes people who are war criminals. Like, I'll show you the list in just a second. Brian Berlatek spelled this out so well. He said the U.S. National Endowment for Democracy, also known as NED, congratulates U.S. puppet for receiving fake U.S. influence Nobel Peace Prize. The U.S. NED, far from being defunded or dismantled, has just congratulated U.S.-funded Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado for receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. The prize has long been used to create the illusion of legitimacy for functionaries of U.S. hegemony around the globe, working against, not for peace. Everybody understand that part? It's usually given for people that are not trying to implement peace. The NED statement admits Maria had joined NED activities as recently as last year. What a coincidence. With her whole movement since the early 2000s has been funded by the US government via the NED. Just another Western puppet. This only further exposes the prize as a deep state stamp of approval, and only further exposes who and what Donald Trump has been all along. What I tell you. Because here's the thing. You don't fight the deep state by promoting the deep state, working with the deep state. But Donald Trump knew that that would sell people. So he says, we're going to take out the deep state, but he wasn't really going to do that. That was just to get votes. It goes on to say here, NED congratulated Maria for receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. And Brian highlighted this here. When Maria Corina joined NED in 2024 Democracy Awards, she spoke powerfully of the moment her country is living through. We are seeing a unique, unprecedented social movement growing day after day, defeating fear, getting all people back together around the values we share. We want to live with dignity, with freedom, and with our families together. This is the warning that came from Brian Berlatek when he was on this show. When we hear about some of these social movements that are happening in countries throughout the world, we need to look and see who is funding those movements. I didn't get it right with Nepal, and Brian explained it to me. So now I know to look into the funding, because oftentimes these social movements are implemented by the US, by the West, to give people the idea that, look, the people are fighting back against a dictator. But you got to understand, this isn't about that. It's all funded by Western money, nonprofits, to implement regime change. And what it does is it causes chaos, and people like stir in the streets and all that kind of stuff. And they say, look, the people want to be liberated. The people want a new leader. The US then points to that and uses it as an excuse to take out the current leader and to install the puppet that they want. So what is NED? And I'm going to show you one of the things that you need to look for. Let's go to part 2 here. NED. Vocabulary matters. National Endowment for Democracy. Keyword, democracy. This is what I want you to focus on here for a second, folks. Check this out. NED is an independent nonprofit foundation dedicated to the growth and strengthening of democratic institutions around the world. Stop. That part right there. Peep this, fam. Strengthening democratic institutions around the world. Growth and strengthening democratic institutions. Pay attention to that word democracy. So when we're talking about geopolitics, oftentimes that refers to regime change. This is something I've just come to learn over time. We are going to implement democracy in Venezuela. We're going to implement democracy in this country, in that country, in this country. And that means regime change. But democracy sounds nicer. So that's the word that they use. So NED is a nonprofit, but this is what Brian Burlatek was talking about when he said, you know, just because something is a nonprofit doesn't mean it's a good nonprofit. So you have nonprofits that are being used to fund and push regime change. And Maria was a part of that. So she's connected to this. Donald Trump, in 2023, he admitted that he wanted to overthrow Venezuela's president. Listen to this.
Venezuela. How about we're buying oil from Venezuela? When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil. It would have been right next door. Venezuela. How about we're buying oil from Venezuela? When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil.
We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil. So, I mean, one thing I would say about Trump is he tells you everything. Like he's really upfront about things, right? Trump has what I like to call no filter. Like he just kind of says these things. Other presidents kind of keep it kind of, under wraps and will say, oh, we got to liberate the people in Venezuela. We need to implement democracy in Venezuela. Maduro is a dictator. Donald Trump goes, yeah, I wanted to get rid of them and overthrow and get all their oil. That's what it's really about. Don't you guys think it's weird that all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, we care about drug trafficking that's coming from Venezuela? Really? After all these years? The resources are drying up. I told people before we should not continue to just depend on the resources like oil, coal, etc. And the US government is at the point where they're trying to find other places to get those resources. And Venezuela has billions of barrel oil. So that's what this is really all about. Now, I just want to show you something here as well. These are the people who have won the Nobel Peace Prize. So I just want to show you how corrupt the Nobel Peace Prize can be. From Kissinger to Sukai, Obama to Machado, the Nobel Peace Prize has rewarded architects and enablers of war and massacres that serve Western imperial interests. Look at this. So we got Maria. I already told you about Maria, Zionist, basically Western puppet. Henry Kissinger authorized deadly bombings in Cambodia and Laos. 2 Nobel Committee members resigned in protest. That was 1973. 1978, Menachem Begin, Israeli regime, former leader of the Zionist militia, responsible for massacres of Palestinians. This is who they give the award to. Suki, architect of the mass murder of minority Muslims in Myanmar. 1994, Shimon Peres, David Ben-Gurion's disciple, Israeli regime. He developed Israel's first nuclear bomb, expanded illegal settlements, and led the military aggression in Lebanon. They gave a Nobel Peace Prize to a guy who expanded Israeli settlements, who kicked Palestinians out of their home. The Nobel Peace Prize means the exact opposite of peace. And I'm surprised more people haven't caught on to this. We can go on. Jimmy Carter, 2002, supported genocidal regimes in Vietnam and East Timor, backed dictators in Nicaragua and Iran during his presidency. That's 2002. 2009, Barack Obama oversaw deadly drone warfare and military strikes across the West and South Asia during his presidency. I also add, don't forget, bombed all those brown kids in Libya. 2023, Nergis Mohammadi, a West-backed provocateur of deadly anti-government riots in Iran. And now Maria. So the Nobel Peace Prize doesn't actually mean peace. The name is a joke. And I saw a lot of people on social media that have kind of woken up to this, and they were pushing back on it, not just because it was given to Maria, but also because it wasn't given to actual freedom fighters, like the people, the activists that were part of the flotillas, for example. More people are waking up, and no, we're not going to take it. We're not. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Thank you for the super chat, Marvin. Van Kitty Bones Jones hustling for the shekels. Interesting. John says, Sabby, you are quite the metalhead. Nice. Is it still considered metal these days? I don't even know. Thank you, What Democracy? CIA is the biggest gang here. There you go. Thank you, Michael. Why do we still take the Nobel Peace Prize seriously? It was founded as PR for Alfred Nobel because people kept calling him the Merchant of Death. It's a good question, Michael. Good question. All right. We're doing pretty good on time. I'm proud of myself for that. Let's go ahead and do the announcement here. Do I have an announcement? Oh, yeah, I do. Quick announcement. Yes. Thank you. Thank you guys so much to everyone who donated to the documentary fundraiser. I have a documentary coming out November 15th. It is called Removed: Black Erasure in Boston. The first premiere will be on the ground here in Boston. That's by invitation and then open to the public. So, of course, all the people who are in the documentary have already been invited, and I'm looking forward to that. If you do not know about it, again, I will go ahead and show you the trailer really quick. Super pumped about this, super excited, guys. And November can't come soon enough. Here's the trailer for my documentary, Removed: Black Erasure in Boston. Yes, Boston is home to winning sports teams and elite universities. But some might say that there are two Bostons.
If you look at City Hall, no one's talking about that specific racial and historical component that Black people are the ones that are being removed.
There's a huge significant difference in lived experiences, and we know this because of the wealth report. We're at $8.
This whole plan of gentrification isn't a new concept. In every city you go into in the Northeast, they kept moving Black people out of the inner city. So it's a plan. It's been in place for a long time.
While the displacement isn't as bad as 1963, it hasn't gotten much better now.
It's by design that they've created spaces where we are no longer seen anymore. They're wiping us out one community at a time, and they're getting away with it. This is gentrification. Franklin Park has been a place where we have built community, and all these things are at risk.
Why is the mayor willing to throw herself on this sword, do or die, for this project? It's not about soccer. It's about the additional profits that can be made in this entertainment complex. It's a disrespect that you would take public parkland and then give it to a private group to control it. And this project is Emmett Till's mama pulling back a curtain. And if people don't look at what's behind that curtain, it's coming to them.
Yeah, shout out to my editor, Scott. He's been doing a fantastic job. Like, it's so funny. I can't wait till this premieres, because after it premieres on the ground, we're gonna do a watch party of it here on the channel. So then you guys will get to see it, and then of course we'll clip like the full documentary version, so people can just go straight to that and not have to go through the watch party for it. But I can't wait to show it to you guys. I've seen it like 100 times, because like we go through every week and like make edits and everything, and every time it just looks better and better from the editing perspective. I think he did a really good job, and I highly recommend him. I told him, Scott, I was like, look, I'll recommend you to anybody else that wants to do a documentary, because he far exceeded my expectations. So I am crossing my fingers, and I am looking forward to that. Okay. Let's continue on, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get to the Barack Obama story, because, I told you that Van Jones was not having a good week. Now he's on his second not good week. Barack Obama is not having a good week. Not having a good week after a recent statement that he made that even has Miss Rachel coming after Barack Obama. Let's see what he said. Oh, boy. After 2 years of unimaginable loss and suffering for Israeli families and the people of Gaza, we should all be encouraged and relieved that an end to the conflict is within sight, that those hostages still being held will be reunited with their families, and that vital aid can start reaching those inside Gaza whose lives have been shattered. More than that, though, it now falls on Israelis and Palestinians, with the support of the U.S. and the entire world community, to begin the hard task of rebuilding Gaza, and to commit to a process that, by recognizing the common humanity and basic rights of both peoples, can achieve lasting peace. What was interesting about this is at the bottom here, he says common humanity and basic rights of both people. But at the very beginning of his statement, he made it very clear that he didn't even consider the humanity of both people. What really stood out to me about this post here from Barack Obama is that he said suffering for Israeli families and the people of Gaza. And I paused for a second and I was like, huh? Why is it the Israeli families, but when it comes to the Palestinian, the people of Gaza? Palestinians don't have families? And at first I thought maybe it's just me. Then I started to notice other people were calling it out too. Because what Barack Obama did there, as much as he wants to talk about humanity, he also dehumanized the Palestinian people by saying the Israeli families and then saying people of Gaza. Barack Obama was letting you know that the Palestinian people, number one, he was alluding to the fact that they don't have families. And two, notice he just called them the people. He didn't call them Palestinian. He didn't even call them Arab, just the people. So it's a dehumanizing statement. And this isn't the first time that Barack Obama has done that. I don't think it's a mistake. I think Barack Obama is doing this intentionally. Now, a number of people, like I said, were not too happy about this. Even the Middle East Eye, they published it. Ceasefire, Gaza ceasefire. Obama is criticized for both siding genocide. Critics say X posts by the former U.S. president downplays Palestinian victims of war and ignores decades of Israeli violence, which I will show you he was well aware of in just a second. So we go here. Social media accusers have accused Barack Obama of dehumanizing Palestinians and both siding a genocide. Let's get into some of those posts here. Here's one here from Ian Higgins. Can't help but notice the wording. Israel has families. Gaza just has people. Here's another one here, a direct response to Barack Obama. This is one of the most racist posts I'm seeing after the end of a genocide. People of Gaza, no families in Gaza, no hostages from Gaza held for months, no Palestinian hostages who died in Israeli concentration camps, no Palestinian families who Israel wiped out. Yeah, there's more. A graceless, dehumanizing statement. It's a genocide, not a conflict. And Palestinians have families too, some of which were shattered even today. There can never be peace without justice until Israel is held accountable for its crimes. It has no incentive to desist. So, yeah, man, people not happy. People not happy at all. And Barack Obama, again, knows exactly what he's doing. So here you go. You have someone who, Barack Obama, knowing how people dehumanized him when he won the presidential election, he then passes on that dehumanization to another group of people. And Obama turned out to be not who we thought he was going to be. For those of us who did support him, I thought Obama was going to be a big change. He was not a big change. And I remember, even when he first won, I remember people like, there were pictures of Barack Obama being hung from a tree. I remember all this stuff, all the racist things that were against him. The way how Benjamin Netanyahu wouldn't even acknowledge him the same way he would acknowledge the white presidents who came before him. And Barack Obama, again, decides to take that same type of energy and use it against another group of people. Anything to be a part of the club. Someone else came after him, and that was Miss Rachel. You guys know Miss Rachel. She loves the children. They tried to come after Miss Rachel. The Zionists tried to come after Miss Rachel because she said she loves all the children. Isn't that crazy? Dear President Obama, I saw in your statement you said Israeli families and the people of Gaza. Palestinians have families too. This kind of language contributes to dehumanization. Dehumanization is part of what caused so many to stay silent as 20,000 children were killed in this genocide. I've sat with wonderful Palestinian families from Gaza. They look at their children just like we look at ours, with all love and hope in the world. Now, that is from Miss Rachel. The thing is, people are assuming that Barack Obama doesn't realize what he said, but he does realize what he said. That makes it even worse. Barack Obama knows exactly who the Palestinian people are, where they came from, what they've been through. But Barack Obama decided that if he wanted to be a part of electoral politics, he wanted a career, he wanted to be president of the United States, he made a decision a long time ago. And that decision was to ignore the colonialism, to ignore the dehumanization and the displacement of the Palestinian people, join along with AIPAC so that he could have this political career that he wanted. Barack Obama knows this. The same guy who had Rahm Emanuel as one of his advisors. Rahm Emanuel, the same guy that went on to lie about the murder of Laquan McDaniel in Chicago. Barack Obama never corrected what Rahm Emanuel said. Rahm Emanuel, another Zionist, he decided to, let's pull back from focusing on the oppressed people and let me align myself with the people who are doing the oppressing so that I can have a political career. And I want to show you something else. See, a lot of people don't know about this. Did you know that when Obama was coming to Ramallah, there were protests in Ramallah. This was about 12 years ago, or this was posted 12 years ago. People forget this, but people were protesting against him. And I want to show you some of the signs. Watch this. You see the signs say no hope, and that's because Barack Obama ran on hope and change. And he also said we're going to end the wars in the Middle East. Of course, didn't make that happen. He sided with Israel. Like I said, another one, he said a lot of good things to get elected, but once he got in there, he turned out to be just like the predecessors who came before him, especially when it comes to geopolitics and in the Middle East in particular. Ramallah, that's an important place. There was a statue of Nelson Mandela in Ramallah. Nelson Mandela stood with the Palestinian people. He didn't stand with Israel. Barack Obama knows this. You see, when Barack Obama was in college, at one point, he did stand with those oppressed. He stood with the Palestinian people. He stood with the struggle for the Palestinians. He did not stand with Israel. And this is what I said before about how AIPAC and Kufi, they will get a hold of people like him and say, okay, you want this political career, you're going to have to make a couple of changes. And that's what they do. And you can find this information online. So let's continue watching it here. There's one more I want to show you. This sign here says U.S. funds apartheid. So do you see? That was for Barack Obama's visit. That wasn't for Netanyahu's visit. That wasn't for Donald Trump's visit. That wasn't for Biden's visit. That was for Barack Obama's visit, because he promised all this hope and change. And he turned out to be a joke. A joke. Now, to show you what I mean, because it took me a minute to find this video. This video sometimes can be hard to find. To show you what I mean, that Barack Obama knows exactly what he is doing. Barack Obama on Palestine. So this was years ago. I just want to show you. Listen to this.
Their right to justice must also be recognized. And put yourself in their shoes. Look at the world through their eyes. It is not fair that a Palestinian child cannot grow up in a state of their own, living their entire lives with the presence of a foreign army that controls the movements, not just of those young people, but their parents, their grandparents.
Pause. Now, all of a sudden, Palestinians have families. Do you hear what he said? They control the movements, not just of their family, but their grandparents, their parents. Let's go back to that. This is why I'm telling you, he knew exactly what he was doing.
It is not fair that a Palestinian child cannot grow up in a state of their own, living their entire lives with the presence of a foreign army that controls the movements, not just of those young people, but their parents, their grandparents, every single day.
Pause. So that is Barack Obama acknowledging that Israel controls the movements, which would then make Israel an apartheid state. People act like these videos don't exist.
It's not just when settler violence against Palestinians goes unpunished. It's not right to prevent Palestinians from farming their lands or restricting a student's ability to move around the West Bank or displace Palestinian families from their homes. Neither occupation nor expulsion is the answer. Just as Israelis built a state in their homeland, Palestinians have a right to be a free people in their own land.
Pause. So does everybody see what just happened there? He also admitted that Israel was occupying the people.
I'm going off script here for a second, but before I came here, I met with a group of young Palestinians from the age of 15 to 22. And talking to them, they weren't that different from my daughters. They weren't that different from your daughters or sons. I honestly believe that if any Israeli parent sat down with those kids, they'd say, I want these kids to succeed. I want them to prosper. I want them to have opportunities just like my kids do. I believe that's what Israeli parents would want for these kids if they had a chance to listen to them and talk.
No, they wouldn't. They don't care about those children. Again, they see them all as, what do they say? They're animals. They say, you know, they're savages. That's what Netanyahu likes to use a lot. They wouldn't have that opinion. But what this video shows you is that Barack Obama knew exactly what was happening to the Palestinian people.
Talk to them. I believe that. Now, only you can determine what kind of democracy you will have. But remember that as you make these decisions, you will define not simply the future of your relationship with the Palestinians, you will define the future of Israel as well. As Ariel Sharon said, I'm quoting him, "It is impossible to have a Jewish democratic state at the same time to control all of Eretz Israel. If we insist on fulfilling the dream in its entirety, we are liable to lose it all."
And that was the hope that a lot of people had. They thought that, okay, but Barack Obama seems to be more sympathetic about the Palestinian cause than other presidents that came before him. And yeah, it was just all talk. It was all talk. Now, here's Barack Obama now. Here is him today talking about democracy. And I just want to play this to prove a point.
Like many of you, I've become increasingly concerned about the rising wave of authoritarianism sweeping the globe. We're seeing politicians target civil society, undermine freedom of the press, weaponize the justice system. And no one is being spared. Even countries that thought they were immune from wholesale assaults on democracy now understand we're all part of this struggle.
There's that word again, democracy. Right?
That's an enormous challenge, but it also means we can learn from each other. I recently sat down with 3 leaders who are part of the Obama Foundation's alumni network to discuss their work in Hungary and Poland, 2 countries on the leading edge of confronting autocracy. People like Stefania, Sandor, and Susanna, they give me hope. And it's why a big part of our mission here at the Foundation is to connect, inspire, and empower leaders like them.
What does he mean when he says empower? So do you see this? Barack Obama probably was one of the biggest con games out there for younger people, because a lot of younger people came out to support Barack Obama in 2008. Big con game, right? And when all else fails, let's try to draw your attention to another part of the world. Let's try to draw your attention to Poland and Hungary. Last time I checked, Poland's doing just fine. He's kind of leading into the whole Russia thing with this. But last time I checked, they seem to be doing just fine. There are things that people have in Poland that we do not have here. They have universal policies in Poland that we don't have here. So last time I checked, people in Poland seem to be okay. Let me try to turn your attention to this direction so that you're not focused on what is coming. Because you guys know tomorrow is that Gaza, you know, the peace summit, the so-called peace summit that's happening tomorrow in the Middle East. And now it's like, let me see if I can turn people's attention in another direction. None of this changes the fact that he was dehumanizing Palestinians, but it wasn't an accident. And I think this is the part that some people may get wrong. When you stop and think that, oh my gosh, what did he just say? You have to correct this, Obama. You can't say that. He doesn't realize what he just said. You are already playing their game. When you start thinking it was a mistake, you're already playing their game. It is not a mistake. He knows exactly what he's saying. This is not the first time he has done something like this. And he's been corrected multiple times before. So Barack Obama, and this is the sad part. The sad part is when you see people who have already been through this type of dehumanization, which he had, start to use that against other people just so that they can fit in with the club. It's similar situation what we talked about before, what we see in Israel, the Zionist Ethiopians, who were also discriminated against, are willing to look down on the Palestinian people so that they can still fit in the Israel club, even though Israel sterilized Ethiopian women against their will. They are willing to overlook that and still dehumanize the Palestinian people because at least they're not those people. You get what I'm saying? At least they're not at the very bottom. So they are willing to play along with the oppressors, with the occupation, because they're like, I'd rather be on this team than to be over there with them, even though they know that it's wrong. That's the sad part. Now, Barack Obama is not Ethiopian, but Barack Obama knows exactly what he's doing. And the reason why so many people are, retweeting him and calling him out and all these things is because, again, we're just not going to take it. We're not going to take it. There was a time when Barack Obama was beloved by many people. I think his star has faded. Whether it was him saying black men are the reason for Kamala not doing well and calling out black men and calling out black people in front of the CBC, whether it is the dehumanization of Palestinians, whatever it has been, the star that Barack Obama once had has now faded. And I think even more younger people are starting to see him and all these other neoliberals for what they really are: frauds, war criminals, and honestly, gangsters. They're gangsters in suits. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. All right. Thank you, Kevin. Carter pulled support for Somoza and Nicaragua. That's why the Sandinistas took over. Thank you, XR Marty. Sabby deserves the Nobel Prize. Not for me. Not for me. I'm just a chick in a room. Heidi says, dang, Sabby's narrator voice is nice. Thank you. I wasn't too sure about it, actually. I was just kind of like, I don't know. Thank you, Chima. Obama also dehumanized the protesters in Baltimore. Yep. Thank you, a kid. Salute Sabby for her documentary film. Same scenarios throughout the U.S., removing Black folks from cities and areas. Yep. Thank you, What Democracy. Obama led us to Trump. There you go. Holy cow. Thank you, Blueser. Barack wasn't concerned about fascism at Carter's funeral, laughing it up with Trump, who dehumanized him for years. Big goofy. Yeah, they all in the same club, especially when it comes to class. Thank you, Cougar. Sabby tonight just made the connection for me. Rahm was behind the 10-year MOU that gave Israel $38 billion in military aid. Obama was just Rahm's puppet. Nothing for Black Americans. Ding, 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 ding. There you go. There you go. Let's get the comment there on Rockfin and we'll go on to the next story. Thank you, Roger. Trump wanting to overthrow Venezuela. I say you and what army? Have you seen the shape of our soldiers are in? Diminishing military, Sabrina. Hegseth wasn't joking about them being fatties. I've been hearing comments like Meal Team 6, they're gravy seals, and Desert Storm. Also, yes, this hip-hop loving Gen X love both Twisted Sister songs. We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. All right. This next story is a little bit different, quite a doozy, but let's get into it. Artist Kid Rock. I don't think I've ever talked about him before on the show. He has put out a statement against Live Nation and Ticketmaster, and he's not the only one that I've seen before call out Live Nation and Ticketmaster. they have been getting over on people, artists, and also concert goers like myself. Damn it. They've been getting over on a lot of people, and we're going to get into the thick of it. But first and foremost, he made a comment here about leftists, and I got something to say. I got something to say to Kid Rock, because I remember Kid Rock back when. I remember him back when. Listen to this.
I know you're from Detroit, of course, which at one point was at the epicenter of the crime epidemic. But what's your thinking when you see Pritzker and others on the left who are just dismissing this issue that real people have to live with day in and day out?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is idiots, straight up idiots. I mean, I don't think there's actually anything that President Trump could do that these people, when he said it, you know, in that speech that he had, I don't know, it was like a State of the Union or something, where he's like, he could save one of these people's mother from a burning building, and they could care less. They wouldn't give him credit. I mean, it's asinine to think that we can't come together on some certain things. And you know what really strikes me about this, speaking of Chicago, is like, who's he really trying to help out here? Black people. The South Side of Chicago, predominantly black. These are where these murders and shootings are taking place. The majority of them, they're not out in the suburbs or somewhere. And he wants to help these people. And God forbid we're still all, you know, Nazi racists or whatever their narrative of the day is. It's asinine. It's completely just, it's some words that I'd rather not repeat on the air right now.
One of the things he also said in this conversation was calling out people in college that have blue hair and piercings. And I thought that was really interesting, considering people used to say the same thing about Kid Rock. You see, I don't even know who you are today, kid. Who is Kid Rock? Because when I remember when Kid Rock first came onto the scene, he was a rapper. He was a rapper that had sometimes had rock music behind his rhymes. But he was a rapper, and he used to wear like these shirts, the long sleeve shirts. The shirt was open and his chest was out, and he'd have on the baggy pants. And he was like, "My name is Kid Rock," but you know, like, "My name is Kid," like that type of thing, right? That's who Kid Rock was that I was introduced to. And at that time, I remember Kid Rock said that he grew up in Detroit and all this kind of stuff. Then his parents came forward on VH1 Behind the Music. I don't know if everyone have watched that show, but it kind of tells a lot of stuff. His dad came forward on VH1 Behind the Music and said that Kid Rock was a liar and that he did not grow up in Detroit. He grew up in the suburbs of Detroit in a nice big old house. So who are you, kid? I don't even know. I ask myself this. Who is Kid Rock? So he's like, oh, they're trying to help black people in Chicago. So back then, Kid Rock had the rap thing, and he was hanging out like with like the black rap hip hop artists and all those types of things, trying to, you know, cater music more so towards the black community. Then later on, he decides to dip his foot into country music. He made this song with Sheryl Crow talking about, "I took my picture away" or something. You guys remember that song? And then later on, he goes, "Oh, we're going a little bit more rock." And then it's just, I don't know. I don't even know who Kid Rock is. So that's one thing. And this is the point here too. Do you know what is stupid, Kid Rock? Also, Kid Rock fans for buying into his fake hillbilly shit when he grew up richer than most Americans will ever be. It's true. But he didn't say that. When he first started, he said he was from Detroit. He wasn't from Detroit. This is where he was from. That's a big difference. Big difference, right? So anyway, I guess at one point, you know, after the first Obama term, he said like Obama didn't get the job done. So he came out and supported Mitt Romney. And then he's also been like a Trump supporter, et cetera, as well. So one of the things that Kid Rock has been talking about is that I guess Donald Trump is trying to get something going here against Live Nation and Ticketmaster, right? Now, I will say this. These companies are a scam. And I know, and if you're older than me and you've been going to concerts for a while, you might remember when some of these concert tickets were a lot cheaper. One of the biggest things that's upsetting today is all these service fees. $15 service fee for this ticket, and then a $5 fee for that, and then a $3 fee for all these fees. What are all these fees for? And where is all this money going? Right? So Kid Rock spoke out about this recently, and he's fuming. So I guess he still tours. Listen to this.
So there was some of the people in the business talking about ticketing that when President Trump did that executive order with me in the Oval Office, that these know-it-alls out in California were like, oh, they're just showboating, really did nothing. What he did was he ordered the FTC and the Department of Justice to go investigate, see what the hell's going on with ticketing. Well, guess what? They investigated. And what happened? They filed a fucking lawsuit against Ticketmaster. Because clearly they found out that those motherfuckers are crooks, and they've been crooks for decades, fucking over the public, fucking over artists.
That's true. In fact, when I saw Prince, this was years ago. So Kid Rock, I agree with you on this. When I saw Prince years ago in Columbia, South Carolina, I was like, oh my God, Prince is coming to Columbia. I have to see if I can go to this concert. Like, because I was like, it could be my last time to ever see Prince. And I'd never seen Prince in concert before. I was shocked that there were tickets that were offered by Live Nation that were like $55 for Prince. I kid you not. Prince later said that he had no control over the ticket prices. He said that Live Nation, because they were the ones that were in control of the event, they're the ones that set the prices. There were seats on the floor that were like $1,500, like going all the way up, $1,500, $200, $1,500, $2,000 if you wanted to be like right there, like up next to Prince, like, you know. And some people wanted to be because he is the purple one. Was the purple one. Rest in peace, Prince. But that kind of made me realize something. How much control do the artists have over the ticket prices? Because I've heard people say that, well, Beyonce, you know, has high ticket prices. Does she make those choices, or are the decisions made by Live Nation? Let's continue. We're going to get into their business model in just a second as well.
Now somehow, can I flip this phone around? Somehow I got one of these world orbs. And that proves you're a human. Comes with an app, world app. You download it. It's proof of humanity. This thing would cut the bots out, cut the scalpers out immediately. Somehow I got one in my fucking house. But the ticketing companies can't figure this out. You know why? Because every time, if you buy a ticket and go to a concert, you are their worst customer. They want that ticket to resell on their own platform so they can fuck everybody twice. They get the service charges, they get another, whatever, 17% or something, on top of all the other horse shit they're dicking you around with. So like I said from the beginning, I don't know if breaking Ticketmaster up solves the problem. I'm not sure if this orb solves it, but it's a step in the right direction. I know this. None of the ticketing companies are using it. Somehow I got one in my fucking house. But they can't figure it out. They're full of shit. They could have stopped the bots years ago. They could have fixed this fucking problem, and they haven't because they're greedy fucks. So I hope they all go down personally, right to the fucking bottom. Fuck them. And I hope we can figure out ticketing so us as artists, when we set a price, we can get the tickets into the hands of the fans at the prices we set. And I know that's not really I'm a capitalist to the bone. And there's some questions there, but these bad actors and other all the ticketing companies, and they're not even scalpers, brokers, whatever you want to call them, they've hid behind the disguise of capitalism for years.
Kid Rock criticizing capitalism? Let me pull up a seat. Yeah, this is the problem. That's how these things are able to happen, because we do live in a capitalist society. There really isn't a big competitor to Live Nation, Ticketmaster. So they can charge as much as they want, and they can increase these service fees as much as they want. It's absolutely ridiculous. And you would think that maybe long ago, somebody would have figured out something like, how do we get rid of all of this? Because it's ridiculous. Like if you see a ticket that's priced for, let's say $60, by the time you get to the end and you're at the shopping cart and it's time for you to check out online, how does $60 go to $85? Somebody explain this to me. It's the service fees. So he's being vocal about that. And other artists, I think, should come forward to be vocal about that. But they're not going to because it's a partisan issue. It shouldn't be, but it is. It's a partisan issue because it's something that Trump apparently is trying to look into. And then there we go again. But as long as we live in a capitalist system, somebody is always going to take advantage of it in some way, shape, form, or another, whether it's Ticketmaster, Live Nation, or somebody else.
Fuck them. This is one that we need some regulations on, either a price cap. I'd say 10%. You can't resell a ticket for 10%, like they 15% like they do in some European countries. Or use this proof of human thing. Whatever it takes. I shouldn't be the one to figure it out. These motherfuckers should, but they haven't. They've raped us for fucking years. Fuck them. I hope they all go down. But really what I hope for is we can fix ticketing for the fans. And by the way, they've been fucking the artists too, but I'm kind of second in that equation. I want the fans to be able to go to a show at the prices I set for my tickets, and most artists do. We'll see if any other artists get on board, by the way, with this lawsuit, and their management, if they want to talk and tell them about the bullshit that's going on for decades. A lot of them will puss out. Straight up pussies. All these outlaw country singers, they'll be a bunch of fucking pussies. When they should speak up for their fans. Let's see if Pearl Jam steps up. They wanted to fix ticketing years ago. They probably won't, because they'll be like, oh, we hate Donald Trump. We have Trump derangement syndrome. All these other presidents could have fucking done something. Bush, Obama, Clinton. They didn't do shit. Nobody has. Trump does. Trump is. We are. So, calling your bluffs right now. Let's see what happens. Rock on.
Pearl Jam is going to be like, Jeremy spoken class today. That's going to be, let me stop. That's going to be Pearl Jam's response. But I do want you to see a little bit of their model so you guys can understand like why this is happening. So they're making a lot of money and we're paying more as concert goers and they're gypping the artists. Check this out.
Slowly making their way into other business lines.
It is also an artist management company, a venue operations company, and it runs sponsorship and advertisements for major concert tours across the country.
So by the early 2000s, you basically just have two companies that have dominated all of the various businesses in live music. But that wasn't enough for them. Live Nation wanted the whole industry to themselves.
Live Nation was starting its own ticket selling business to compete with Ticketmaster.
Yeah, that's right. It was a battle of titans like Batman v Superman or Godzilla x Kong. But just like in those movies, the showdown was a bit anticlimactic and turned into more of a buddy movie.
Did we just become best friends? Yep!
They abandoned those plans and in early 2009 announced that they were going to merge these two very, very large.
Okay, this is a big part of the problem. See the merger that happens here? So Live Nation was managing artist management, venues, concert promotion, sponsorship, and advertising. And then Ticketmaster at that time was just responsible for ticketing. But then they decided to merge these two. And you end up with this huge, like this conglomerate, and nobody can compete with it. That's the problem. There's other times when I try to go purchase a ticket and I'm like, oh, let me try to buy a ticket on this site. And it's not Ticketmaster or Live Nation. Then by the time you get to the shopping cart, it takes you right back to Ticketmaster. There's no way to get out of it. And I've tried multiple times. This is what I mean. Like it could be named, the name could be something else. Maybe the name is StubHub. Maybe you're trying to get tickets for, I don't know, like a Celtics game or something. And you'll say, let me just try to get it on the Celtics website instead of going to Ticketmaster. And then you get into the shopping cart and it says it takes you right back to Ticketmaster. They really do have a hold on this industry, the ticketing event industry.
Powerful companies in the entertainment industry.
And the Obama administration basically let them get away with it.
And that's really led to a very dominant monopoly power for Live Nation ever since. They control at least 60% of the top venues in the country, 80% of the primary ticket selling market.
We made a video with Cory Doctorow in 2022 that talked about this merger and the history of weakened antitrust policy that led to it. You can watch that here. But today, we're going to dig more into Live Nation's business model. How does this giant company actually make money? They might own all of these various business lines, but they're not all equal.
At the core of this business model is its concert promotion business. It is a capital-intensive, hard-to-run business with ostensibly very low margins. And Live Nation will talk a lot about how they're only earning about a 1.3, 1.7% margin on their concert promotion business, which is pretty small. The way that they are able to do that is because their concert promotion business really drives the rest of the other business lines. So it drives their ticket selling operation, where Live Nation actually gets something like a 37% margin. It runs their sponsorship and advertising business line, which elicits a 67% commission.
Live Nation makes almost no money on concert promotion, and they make most of their money charging concertgoers like you massive service fees and getting sponsorship deals, both of which require very little upfront investment.
Let's pause here for a second. So the sponsorship deals, right? Did you guys see the one with Citibank just a second ago? Let me see if I can get back to that one.
And they make most of their money charging concertgoers like you massive service fees and getting sponsorship deals.
Right here, presented by Citi. See, Live Nation Lounge, presented by Citi Entertainment. So yeah, this is a big part of the problem. And of course, those damn service fees. Like, why are we going from paying, again, $60 for a ticket to $85? Sometimes even more than that. All those service fees is absolutely ridiculous. I'll show you a little bit more here.
Both of which require very little upfront investment. They just use the concert promotion business to direct traffic into the parts that do make money.
It's the ability to get market share, which allows you to be able to generate massive sponsorships, so that Toyota or Nestle's Crunch, whatever it might be, will give you money.
Market share is the key part there. They dominated all these businesses in the industry so that nobody had any choice but to work with them and get ripped off. Artists, for example, often don't have a choice but to use Ticketmaster for ticketing and Live Nation for promotion.
See, that's the point that Prince made. He didn't have a choice. He said he had to do it through Live Nation. So this is a problem. And I think, yes, Live Nation, Ticketmaster, yes, they do, to answer Kid Rock's question, yeah, they do need to split. They do need to be broken up. This is crazy. And like I said, nobody else can compete because they own so much. They have a handle on everything. And as you notice over the years, the concert tickets continue to become more expensive. The service fees continue to increase. And if you're like me, you know, I like going to see live shows, but people shouldn't have to pay an arm and a leg for it either. This is why I think I would highly recommend going to a music festival, not Coachella. I ain't going that either. But there are music festivals in I think pretty much almost every state, usually about once or twice a year. That way you get more for your money and you get to see all these different groups, you know, over a course of a couple of days or whatever, instead of paying like hundreds of dollars to see one person that one night. And I don't know, like something needs to be done there. And I get it. The artists have to get paid as well. So it's like, you can't expect the artists to do so many free concerts, because now that people don't really buy CDs anymore, artists don't really make a lot of money that way. And people are doing the downloads on Spotify or, you know, Apple Tunes or whatever. But they don't make as much as you would think. And then the record company, they're going to get their cut. The lawyers get their cut. If that artist was given an advance, which a lot of them are, all of that has to be paid back. This is oftentimes why some of these groups go bankrupt, because they're not making, they're selling all these, you know, I guess songs now. So weird not to say selling albums these days, but they got all these massive downloads, but the record company always going to get their cut first. So you can't expect the musicians to do so many free concerts. Now, Eric laid this out for MCDS analysis of Live Nation, and I thought this is pretty cool. If you look at the pyramid, this is basically what you have. At the very top, the arenas, Live Nation Entertainment. In the middle, you have the mid-sized venues, and at the bottom, you have the small venues, right? So it's a pyramid style again, and if it was done the right way, that's supposed to trickle down, right? But we know what the pyramid, the whole pyramid scheme does not work out. So the FTC is suing Live Nation, and the action is cheered on by, among others, More Perfect Union and Kid Rock. this is undoubtedly a good thing and shows how populist ideas can be embraced by both the left and the right. But it's not nearly enough. We need to be turning our demands up to 11 and using MCDS to make the connections. If we look at money, corruption, demands, and solutions, the money, Live Nation is an illegal monopoly that exists to enrich the billionaire class. The corruption, that billionaire class uses its wealth to corrupt our government and its agencies. The demand, it's up to the 99% to demand an end to the corruption. And the solution, we need direct solutions to fix big money in politics and government. See 11 demands. It's all up to us to be clear about the demands for the 11 demand strategy. So Eric, if you could put the link to 11 demands in the chat. It's important for people to make the connection and connect these pieces, right? This is a pyramid scheme. And that's why Live Nation, they're reaping all the benefits and the people at the bottom are not. Because as we know, trickle-down economics actually doesn't work. So I don't know if Pearl Jam is going to, join Kid Rock in this. I think all the artists need to really come together and start to push back, because Live Nation is just going to continue to increase the ticket prices. And now, considering the way the economy is, this is not the first thing people can pay for. It's probably last on the list. Money is tight. When money gets tight, people are not trying to pay hundreds of dollars to go to a concert. So we'll have to see if that happens. But basically, I guess Kid Rock is, basically saying to everybody, you know what? We're not going to take it. Yeah. Let's go to some of the comments here. Actually, no, we got to keep going on, I think, because of the time. Eric, can we go to part 3 of Type VNC? And Eric will read the chats. He'll close out the show because it's Sunday. Okay. Again, the theme is we're not going to take it. And apparently, neither is Max Blumenthal. You guys got to see this story. This is interesting. You are not going to believe this. So we were talking about those paid pro-Israel influencers receiving $7,000 per post. Now something even crazier has happened with one of them, and that's Xavier DeRusso. Check this out. Max Blumenthal called him out. The city of Hallandale Beach, Florida, has officially named September 29th Xavier Day in honor of Israeli-sponsored online influencer Xavier DeRusso of PragerU. The city commission draped an Israeli flag over the American flag during the ceremony. I kid you not, guys. This is crazy. Look at the picture. So the gentleman here with the blonde hair, that's Xavier DeRusso. You see how they got the Israeli, you see this? You see how they have the Israeli flag over the American flag? This is Florida, Hallandale Beach, Florida. This is where we're at now, folks. This is where we're at now. You see, where are all the America First people? Now, remember, Xavier, these are the same people who got mad at the pro-Palestinian protesters for waving the Palestinian flag. But this is okay. This is the hypocrisy here, folks. Max goes on to share the proclamation here. Basically, this is long. I can't read all this. It's very tiny. But basically, at the very top, it says the city of Hallandale Beach is home to a large Jewish and Israel-American community and has witnessed anti-Semitic incidents, and Xavier DeRusso has shared his personal journey embracing Zionism and speaking out for the Jewish people and the state of Israel despite facing personal attacks and vitriol. So they went ahead and they named a day after this paid pro-Israel influencer in Hallandale Beach, Florida. This is where we're at now, folks. I kid you not. This is where we are now. They're naming days after Zionists in this country. Paid pro-Israel influencer. But there's more. This is a good point from Techno King. Let me get this straight. Florida removed all the pride flag crosswalks, but then covered their own country's flag with an Israeli flag to celebrate an LGBTQ influencer. That's a good point. That's a good point. Pretty hypocritical of Florida, isn't it? That's something to think about. Again, I see this. This is very concerning, folks. Very concerning. I hope everybody sees what's happening here. And I've been trying to explain this to people. This is not okay. Somehow that's okay. Even the license plate. What would you expect from Florida? It's basically an Israeli occupied state now. You guys know they got the pro-Israel license plate for Florida now. Now, see, this is to talk about the hypocrisy. If a state had a license plate option with the Palestinian flag, you don't think there would be pushback? This is what's happening here, folks, in Florida. Now, out of all the people, we go back to this in just a second. Out of all the people that you could give a day to, I'm sure there are plenty of people in Florida that have done tremendous things. I don't know, maybe like rescuing someone from a fire, the firefighters. Maybe, I don't know, doing mutual aid for people or whatever. But I'm pretty sure there are people in that town of Hallandale Beach, Florida, that have done great things. They gave a day to someone who is a paid propagandist. That's where the money got them. This is how far we are. Now, of course, Xavier was not happy with Max Blumenthal's statement, so he responded. Listen to this. Max Blumenthal, you are a raggedy, low-down, dirty bastard and a disgrace to all Nepo babies. You cross-eyed, cheap, dispensable bastard. Everybody notice how they always resort to personal attacks? First of all, you just intentionally mischaracterized the ceremony as if I was there to drape the alliance flag. It was already there at their city hall because of their large Israeli American population. So again, these are the same people, Xavier, who said something about the large Arab population in Dearborn, Michigan. It's the same people that said the U.S. has been infiltrated. Let's go on. This is after you lied about me being scared to talk to your musty ass about the Hamptons. After you lied about it being an intervention for Charlie Kirk. After you lied that all of us went to Israel after. After you lied about Newsmax involvement. After you lied to your wife when you told her you were a man. So, do you see how they hit below the belt? This is what you do when you're caught. And after you lied saying I got paid to go to Gaza, then you got on that dusty ass podcast with a man who fled the country after cheating on his pregnant wife to say you've never heard of me. But now all you do is ride my nuts. Stop speaking on me unless you're going to have some journalistic integrity and learn to spell my name. You are a fringe, unfortunate looking cuck, but it's never too late to change. Come celebrate Xavier Day 9/29. Shabbat Shalom. So what Xavier is he's a sellout. He was willing to sell out for anything. And I'm going to show you another example before he rebranded himself. So Max Blumenthal shares this after you lied saying I got paid to go to Gaza. You mean you did this trashy piece of genocide propaganda for free? Listen to this.
If I were Israel, I wouldn't even provide matching socks to Gaza. But here's all the aid that y'all claim doesn't exist. Now walk with me. I'm here in Gaza, and all I see is food, water, and opportunity. But instead of Hamas distributing the ramen noodles, they're eating it all, and that's why their leaders are on Ozempic. The United Nations brings the food here to look like they're actually doing something productive, but they never finish the job, just like your ex. Now this food is sitting here collecting flies, but y'all want to blame Israel. Then you have Egypt, who built the wall of Donald Trump's dreams, keeping the Palestinians here, but y'all don't say anything to them. Why don't you call on any of the nations of Islam to distribute the food to Palestinians? Mind you, there is petroleum right there. Energy, Gaza got the energy, Gaza got the terrorists wasting all their energy.
I have to say, this guy is a disgrace. Is a disgrace. People will do anything for money. I don't understand how people can live with themselves intentionally lying about genocide and starvation, willing to do anything for money. That's sad. And now it's not as though he wasn't already known. He might be more popular now because he was already in conservative spaces before. That was before he rebranded. See, people may not recognize him, but I remember him before he had the blonde hair. I'll show you that in a second, but he's bragging about it. Me accounting my alleged 7,000 checks per post from Israel. Like, see, this is what, look.
Another one, thank you. Another one, thank you. Another one, thank you. Another one, thank you.
He's bragging about it. So that, you see this? Xavier DeRusso, he's bragging about getting the $7,000 checks. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And now his money is going even further, right? So you guys know Qatar is supposed to set up a base in the U.S. Look at this. Listen to this.
I'm a MAGA Republican through and through, but I'm really not rocking with this growing Qatar-U.S. relationship. I'm willing to be proven wrong, but to me, it seems like Qatar is everything that y'all accuse Israel of being. Qatar has a track record of funding the radically progressive propaganda in our universities.
Again, this has not been proven. They're all repeating the same lie. You can see he's obviously reading a script right now. He's showing the screenshot that says Qatar is the single largest foreign funder of universities at $6.3 billion. The DC-based Georgetown has received $1 billion since 2005. Qatar is just a U.S. military outpost. See, again, like, he doesn't do any research. He's been given scripts to read, and he's just paid just to say the bullshit. Qatar is a U.S. military outpost. That's what Qatar is. When I covered that story, by the way, about the 3 Qatari diplomats that were killed. I posted a separate video about that. But that's what Qatar is. You got a U.S. base there, and you got gas. That's what Qatar is. So this is why people like him sound stupid when they say things like, I'm not happy with this Qatar-U.S. relationship. Qatar is funding these universities. Qatar and the U.S. is the same thing. That's why they don't understand. They don't know. They don't do any research. He's just reading a script. He's paid to read a script. Qatar is not this separate thing. It's just a military outpost for the United States. That's it. Let's continue.
They spend millions of dollars courting influencers. They have a massive presence in DC. They're bribing our politicians. And now they are having a military base here. Like, I fully understand it's better to have them as an ally within reach because, you know, keep your enemies closer. But I wish that y'all would investigate Qatar and talk about Qatari influence in the same capacity that you guys hyperfixate on Israel. Many of you blame Israel for everything. Meanwhile, Qatar has spent billions of dollars on lobbying, on our universities, our media, and in real estate. But again, if you have information to change my mind, send it my way.
He thinks Qatar is an enemy of the United States when it's actually just a U.S. outpost. Again, does not know what he's talking about, but he's not supposed to because he's just a paid propagandist. Now I want to take you back to before he rebranded himself, because I just want to prove something to you, right? This is back when he was debating Dr. West on Piers Morgan's show. This is when he still had black hair. So I want to show something to you. Listen to what he said.
Why are we still talking about white supremacy in 2024? Why are we still talking about that hundreds of years later? What do white people do that black people can't? How is white supremacy even still on the forefront of your mind? You're stuck in the past. You're stuck in these dated issues. And that's what the problem really starts.
Now you're really revealing your ignorance, brother. You don't think white supremacy has anything to do with what's going on in Gaza at all?
How am I ignorant? I've been black for 27 years.
So do you see this? So this guy, Xavier, which is he's part of PragerU. This guy, right? He's a puppet. He's just another paid puppet. And what they do, and I told you guys this before, black conservative influencers are offered more money, more growth, and some people take the bait. Now, there are some people who are they are actually conservative. But people like Xavier, they get them and they take them to go to the extreme. So here he is with, I'm 27 and I've been black for 27 years and da 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 da. So do you see how this led to what he's saying about Gaza, led to the starvation, what he said about the starvation in Gaza not being real? So you see a black person being paid to parrot white supremacy talking points actually gives you more money. And Xavier knows that, and that's why he's doing it. It's a known thing. So this is what he had said back then to Dr. West, and anybody in the space can tell you this is a thing. It is a known thing. If you are a black influencer, you are offered more money if you choose to be conservative and you parrot white supremacist talking points and you back white supremacy. That's how you get a him. That's how you get an Officer Tatum who said, I won't spit on once. That's how you get them. They're paid.
To do with what's going on in Gaza at all?
How am I ignorant? I've been black for 27 years and I have never been inferior to a white person. What is the white supremacy that is affecting your life? I would like to hear it. What can't I do that a white person can do?
You one of the few black people never been mistreated. Okay, all right, I see.
Saying that I've never been mistreated. Every demographic has been mistreated.
So do you see what they do? They do that, oh, but we're all the same and da-da-da. No, we're not all the same. So he's just a paid puppet. He's been a paid puppet from day one. And this is what I've been trying to tell people. If you pay attention, you will notice the black people who are conservative and are actually genuinely conservative. And they're not doing it because they were pushed or paid to do so. Because most black conservatives still respect the black community. That's the big red flag. This is what I've been trying to explain to people for the longest time. When you start to see these black influencers and they have no respect for the black community and they start to throw the black community under the bus and stuff like that, they're probably paid. That's how that works. They go to the most extreme. That's how you get them. They'll be the ones that tell you, oh, no, there's no such thing as racism. My race had to do nothing with nothing. None of these things actually happen. They'll be the ones that'll tell you that police brutality doesn't exist. They go to that extreme. Old school black conservatives, and I mean the old school conservatism, not what you see today. The old school black conservatives don't throw the black community under the bus. That is the biggest red flag. So the point that I wanted to make with Xavier, if he was willing to throw the black community under the bus, of course he was going to throw the Palestinians under the bus. Of course he was going to sell out for Israel. Of course he was going to do whatever he wanted to do to get that money. And then you have people like Max Blumenthal calling this out because honestly, people are standing up and saying, no, we're not going to take it. Now you want to get that money, but you don't want it to be exposed. We literally have a city in Florida named an entire day after this buffoon of a man. And that is what I consider him to be, a buffoon. That's a clown. Making a mockery of himself, making a mockery of Black people. Honestly, just making himself a mockery altogether. That's what he is. Do not take him seriously. Do not engage in any way, shape, or form, because when you engage, that's why I didn't respond to him. When you engage, that actually gives him more money. The best thing you can do is ignore those paid influencers. Don't retweet them. Don't respond to them. When you engage with them, you increase their numbers and it gives them more money. But Max put it out there. How do you guys feel about that? How do you feel about this town in Florida naming a whole day after a paid pro-Israel propagandist? So much to the point where they're willing to take the flag and put it over the American flag. That's where we're at now, folks. That's where we're at. All righty. Eric's going to come in and close it out. Yay.
What interesting times indeed, huh?
It's crazy, dude. Crazy stuff. All right, guys. You guys have a good week. I am heading out, and thank you so much for tuning in.
All right. Thank you, Sabrina. We're going to let Sabrina cut out a little early here, and I'm going to read out some super chats to close this sucker down. But yeah, thanks all for watching, and yeah, let's get into these. And some of these super chats go back to the previous story. Let's see here. Thanks for the super chat, Tuxedo Mask, who says, Sabby, can you start a rebel militia group? Interesting question. And also thanks for this one. Rumor has it he's not even a kid. Yeah, talking about Kid Rock. And yeah, that was an interesting one. You know, how first, you know, he's just, we see him as this total clown, but then, you know, on this Ticketmaster issue, you know, we start finding ourselves agreeing with somewhat with what Kid Rock is saying. And I think it gets into when you get into these populist issues and you really focus on, you know, who our real enemies are, you know, that top 0.1% and the, you know, the corporate oligarchy, then you can start finding agreement between the supposed left and right. And that could be powerful. You know, that's what we're hoping for. And thanks, Clarissa Palmore, for being a member for 6 months. And she uses her 6-month chat to say, Kid Rock is a culture vulture. I never liked him. Straight up magnut. I hear you. And thanks for this one, Nicole Smith. Kid Flock rap crumbs dried up. Kid Flock rap crumbs dried up, and he switched up. There you go. And thanks for the super chat. Hey, you, who writes, Kid Rock has been fighting the insane prices and Ticketmaster monopoly for a long time. He cares about his fans. He's not very sophisticated, especially with politics, but he has a good heart. You know, and that's kind of the thing that, you know, we're trying to do with 11 Demands, is really focus on those key demands that bring people together, regardless of the BS culture wars and the left-right nonsense that the corporate establishment and their narrative, you know, try to put on us. So that's why, you know, I think we need a movement that's focused on these clear and concise demands. Thanks for the super chat, Melanie, who says, it always makes me happy talking about Sabby when Sabby sings, but especially when it's grunge rock. And thanks for this one, Roger Meadows, who says, reach out to Stoller. Oh, I think he's talking about, yes, Matt Stoller, an expert on antitrust and monopoly. Yeah, Matt Stoller is good on those things. He's been on Bad Faith several times. And thanks also for this one, Roger, Desert Storm, not Desert Storm, Sabby. Okay, so that, Roger. And thanks for this super chat, Cougar Lady. You have 1,300 comments on your Rolly and Chuck Schumer on your that'd be, you have 1,300 comments on your Roland Martin and Chuck Schumer video. Black America is sick of Israel in AIPAC. Gavin signed a bill for reparations agency, but without cash payments, many won't vote for Dems. Thanks for that. And thanks for this one, Trash Panda, who says the almighty dollar, I think talking about what all these influencers and people are working for. And thanks for the super chat. Where is the love? Who says FBAs really has to scrutinize black faces in high places, especially when they work so hard to go against us and misrepresent us. Those folks tend not to be FBA. This dude is disgusting. Talking about Xavier there. All right, and let's see out here on the old rock fins. See if I can get this in the right place. There we go. Thanks for this tip comment out on Rockfin Roger. Roger says, why does America continually mislabel things? We call something democracy and it's not democracy. We call something socialism and it's not socialism. We call something fascism and it's not fascism. We call something communism, but it ain't coming. Obama, famous takes on black people, pull your pants up. Pookie, stop complaining. Can I have some water? And thanks also for this tip comment, Dave Burt. He says, thanks, Sabby, and thank you, Dave. And yeah, to what Roger was saying, and kind of in general, this misrepresentation and mislabeling. Democracy is a tricky one because, of course, the word has been kind of bastardized and kind of used as part of our foreign policy, right? We're bringing democracy to these countries and so forth, and I think part of with 11 demands, and I'll just bring the site up here briefly because I just want to show off that one of the things that in here, in the 11 demands, this is 11demands.org, which I encourage any and all to go and check out. In the 11 demands list, it's 11 demands for real democracy. And, it's the idea of real democracy as in, one person, one vote. And what we have is a democracy of dollars. We have $1, one vote. And so, a billionaire gets a billion votes kind of thing. And so I do think it's important that rather than simply talking down democracy as just a talking point or just a rhetorical tool that's used, as an excuse to invade foreign countries for one thing, I think it's better for us to be demanding real democracy, right? One person, one vote. And I think if we do that and are real about it, I think we can make that a central focus of a real movement that pulls in both right and left. And, and the biggest one, on the 11 demands list is the whole, fix big money in politics and government. So in closing, it's going to be up to us to, to make that happen, to work on that. It's going to need a big movement with clear demands. And so, let's see if we can figure out how we can work on that. Meanwhile, here on the show, our next live show should be Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully we'll see you then for another good big show. And, as Sabrina likes to say, have that good night, keep up the fight, and we'll see you all then. See you next time. Thanks, everybody.